All right, let's get it. Drive time, Friday afternoon, 8 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Another beautiful day, man, and we've had a great week of weather, great week of fall weather on this Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations. You made it. Weekend time, big old deep breath. You did all the things. You showed up even when you didn't feel like it. And you have earned a weekend. You've earned a weekend full of football. You have earned a weekend full of pretty good weather as of now. But we do live in Utah. As they always say, if you don't like the weather now, wait 15 minutes. But it has been an absolutely beautiful week. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon. We have a beautiful Saturday ahead with a high of 68 degrees and sunny. And hopefully the Utah Utes can get back on track against Colorado coming up tomorrow night at 8:15. We're going to talk about that game on the program today. Another get-right game. Last time Utah had an opportunity to get right, they got right, and that was against Arizona State. This time it'll be against a Colorado team that is trending up, and they're coming off a bye. Now, Colorado is the second worst rushing defense in the Big 12 as of now, and that's where Utah, when they're ticking, has been able to move the football, and that would be on the ground. After last week against BYU, Utah is now the third best rushing team in the Big 12. They entered that game as the second best rushing team in the Big 12, and now they've fallen to number 3. Utah continues to be a very healthy favorite in this game. As of right now, they're favored by 14.5 points with most sports books, or 13.5 with a few. ESPN Bet actually has them favored by 12.5. So Utah continues to be a very healthy favorite against Colorado coming up tomorrow night here in Salt Lake City. Kickoff time will be at 8:15. As I referenced in our pregame coverage with that guy, Porter Larson, and Trevor Riley will begin at 4:15 to get you ready for kick. Man, I got Friday voice going on today. I'll tell you what. I was telling Porter before the show. I'm not sure what's going on, but I've got Friday voice. It's a good thing it's Friday. 4 more hours. That will make 20 hours of blabbing on air, which is just way too much. We'll get there. BYU a 1.5-point underdog. As of now, 2.5 points is what FanDuel has it listed on. But BYU traveling Iowa State. Brigham Young will try to avoid what they did a year ago after beating Utah, and that's losing 2 straight football games. So we'll talk some BYU football. I'm going to get it out, man.
I love the sound effect.
It's the Friday voice, dude. I'm telling you. There's a reason why no one in the world does 4 hours of radio by themselves. Thank goodness I have you. But at the end of the week, every Friday, I'm just like, I'm never talking again. I don't ever want to talk again.
You think we could get Duke to sit in a chair, give you like a co-host of some sort?
No. One of the great things about Duke is he doesn't bark very much.
He is silent. I've never heard him make a noise.
If you show up to the house, he'll bark once, and then he'll open the door, and he'll just jump and cuddle with you because he's the nicest dog. But I do have to say, right out of the gates, I had to scold Duke before the start of the show, and it hurt me. I hate scolding my dog.
Yeah, that's part of it. Those are little creatures of chaos.
Well, he pulled a Jimmy John sandwich out of the garbage here in studio, and we just can't have that happen. No. And you know the old saying, like, don't give me those puppy eyes? Duke has the – so if I leave him at home –
he's adorable.
I'll leave the curtains open, and he puts his paws up, and then he watches me leave. He watches me drive out of the driveway, and it breaks my heart, dude.
Well, and a dog thinks whether you're gone for 15 minutes or a weekend – he thinks you're gone forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Duke has the puppy dog eyes that make you as an owner feel horrible, but we cannot – what sort of behavior is it pulling Jimmy John sandwiches out of garbage cans? We cannot allow that. We do live in a society.
He listen, that's strike 2 for Duke. He got the studio.
He did try to eat the studio as a
Actually,
pup.
no, I think he went on the carpet once too, right?
No. We've had no bathroom situations.
But someone's dog did.
There's a hole in the drywall, and that's from when Duke was just a puppy when I brought him here. But I did have to scold my dog. I am suffering through Friday voice, but we're going to make it through the show today. Appreciate you guys being patient. BYU on the road, Jack Trice Stadium, Ames, Iowa, against an Iowa State team. It's good, not great. BYU an underdog, but they certainly have established themselves as if not the front runner, one of in the Big 12 Conference, up to 11 in the AP. And we'll see if Kalani and his gang can continue to pass all the tests that are put to them. So, Utah, Colorado, BYU, Iowa State. A bevy of Big 12 games, 7 Big 12 games to get to today, and then a really good national slate on the college football side of things. So, got to be heavy with college football today. And then, of course, we'll pop around and do some other things. Week 8 of the NFL got rolling last night, and the Chargers absolutely stomped the Vikings. Carson Wentz is not very good as a starting quarterback. There's your analysis. He was really bad last night. And when the Chargers are going, man, that's a good football team. They're now 5-3. 37-10 was your final. Herbert looked good. Vidal, the backup running back, while Amari and Hampton is on the IR, looked good. Ladd McConkey had a good game. And now we're off and running. Week 8 of the NFL gets rolling with a bunch of great Sunday action, and it will culminate with a Monday Night Football game between the Jaden Daniels-less Commanders and the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead in Kansas City. So a little football-centric this fall. We will do some NBA as the Utah Jazz, after a really exciting, fun opening night win over the LA Clippers, are in Sacramento tonight to take on the Kings at the Golden One Center. Got a little Celtics-Knicks at MSG. Last night, I don't know who Aaron Gordon thinks he is. He went for half 100. Dropped a 50-burger on Golden State, but it didn't matter. Steph Curry, 42 points, 7 assists, 6 boards. The Warriors beat the Nuggets. Oklahoma City in the early game took care of the Pacers in an NBA Finals rematch. Sands won Tyrese Halliburton. So we'll get to some NBA basketball on the program today. The PGA Tour has descended upon our state down south in Irvins, Utah, at the Black Desert Championship. The Bank of Utah Championship. Always take care of the sponsor.
There you go.
At the Black Desert Resort. So we'll get a live check-in down there. A lot of guys went low yesterday. And, of course, it's very cool to have the PGA Tour here in Utah. RSL season came to a whimper of an end, is what I'll say. Portland 3, RSL 1 on Wednesday night. Pablo Mastroianni said big changes are coming, big changes are needed. Does that include Pablo? The Millers have a history of finding a coach they like and sticking with him, namely Jerry Sloan, and then Quinn Snyder after that. Of course, the Millers now the primary owners of Real Salt Lake. The latest on the gambling scandal that has rocked professional basketball. Chauncey Billups was released after posting bail. Terry Rozier, same situation. Chauncey Billups earned over $106 million as a player. His salary for a coach is $4.75 million as the coach of the Blazers. Terry Rozier has earned over $133 million in his 10-year career, and he currently has a contract that pays him $26.6 million with the Miami Heat, making all of this unbelievably puzzling. But there's a couple of pieces of information that came down overnight that we didn't talk about yesterday that we'll kind of bring on the show today to keep you guys up to date. So a lot to do. Friday show. Great to have you with us. We'll start things off with Zach Harper. That's right. The NBA Daily Assist makes its triumphant return now to the program on a Friday. Bring in Zach today. We'll bring in the voice of the Jazz, Craig Bolerjack. We'll check in live down at Black Desert with Paul Pugmire. And then set your clocks for 4 o'clock, specifically because Trevor Riley will be live in studio for an entire hour. And as you know, when Trevor is live in studio for an entire hour, it is must-listen radio. Never know where we're going to go. Trevor, of course, former Ute and one-time assistant of one Deion Sanders. So we'll do an entire hour-long conversation about Utah, Colorado, and then wherever else we go with Trev. Like I said, you never know. So Zach Harper, Craig Bolerjack, Paul Pugmire, Trevor Riley, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, and the host of Ute Pregame is Porter Larson. Will we see a get-right game for Utah football tomorrow night?
I think so. I think you see one of the top rushing attacks in the Big 12 really kind of settle in and show that this week against a Colorado team that not only is not good against the run, but little birdies tell me probably going to be without a bunch of folks. That might be the case on both sides of the football, just to be clear. But we shall see at kickoff on Saturday. I do believe this will be a good get-right game for Utah, a home matchup against a Colorado team that I just don't think matches up quite well with Utah. But per usual with Deion squads, there are some guys at the skill positions that can change the game at any moment. So that's always something you got to keep an eye out against this team.
Trending up, Colorado is, and they are coming off a bye. So Porter is not going to be coy. He will give you the up-to-date injury information because we get none of it on the availability report that Coach Witt clearly does not give a rip about. All right, so let's get to it. Zach Harper will be our first guest. But before Zach stops by, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends, too, at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
You guys already know that Prize Picks is the best place to win money on football. Well, basketball has started. Best place to win money on hoops this season. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks correct, you can win up to 2,000 times your cash. Prize Picks now offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. If you want to pick more on Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You can follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app, copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. Excuse me. What you should do right out of the gates is download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups. After you play that first $5 lineup, that's promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups. After you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. I referenced the availability report. Here's what it says on the Utah side of things. Lander Barton is out for the first half, as we know, after being ejected against BYU a week ago. Tobias Merriweather is doubtful, as is Dallas Vakalaki, and Devin Dampier is questionable. Those are the 4 names listed on the injury/availability report. Do you think Witt even does, when Witt gets the email, does he just forward it to, Paul and says, hey, just you take care of this? He clearly is not taking this exercise seriously.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the punt to the trainers thing, and then the trainers, going to provide you with minimal information, right? And Kyle is okay relaying that minimal information onto the Big 12 Conference. Hey, recent events, Spence, maybe there's a argument to maybe not provide info to Vegas entities or for reasons they're in. I don't know. That we're in a whole crazy place right now with sports. So the availability report to me is just an awesome part and an awesome kind of conversation that revolves around quite a few, let's say, current topics in the game.
Listing Lander is like next level trolling.
Oh yeah, he's out, by the way, guys.
Yeah, putting
know.
Lander Barton on the availability report as out for the first half because he got ejected. That's next level pettiness and trolling from Witt.
Now, there is a little clarification on some of it. There are a few guys that are out for the season that they appear on the Big 12 availability report as out that first week and then don't appear on it going forward. So the guys that we've talked about that are season enders that Kyle has talked about, still the same, right? That is still the case. They just won't appear on that week to week. It'll be based on the guys that are still active. So we just have to track that on our own.
Okay, that's fine. But this is next level pettiness and trolling from Kyle Whittingham. It just is.
Well, I don't
Lander
think
Barton on the availability report is hilarious.
Can I love it?
Of course, it's funny. For me, it's just comedic. If I'm the Big 12, I'm not. I wonder if they're going to fine him because he's clearly not taking this exercise seriously at all. From a personal standpoint, do whatever the hell you want. I think it's funny. When I saw Lander's name, I literally LOL'd. I laughed out loud for you old folks that don't speak the young language like I do.
Can we zero in on, though, the main cause and main reason for doing those reports, like for making those public during the week? What is the main thing?
just to protect these kids from, angry people in their DMs after losing money on betting on games? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's no secret there.
So it's a whole problematic issue and circle and cycle.
Do you remember when...
There's a lot to get to.
Do you remember when Cameron came on Bill's show and basically cried?
Like, yeah, sorry, guys.
Well, look.
Sorry that the over-under or the line on the game keeps changing, and that makes you angry.
Well, look, but the point is this. Like, it is unfair to these kids. And look, they should not receive any sort of message from some degenerate that's mad that he lost money on a game or took a mortgage out on his house and put it down on the Utes and then Cam didn't play. But it's unfair to Cameron if the information isn't out there because then he gets crap. Like I felt like Cameron was failed by the grown-ups in the room. I get the dynamic of not wanting to tip your hand.
Right.
But if there are really people out there sending these kids horrible hate messages, first of all, shame on those people. But I changed my tone on this after listening to Cameron on Bill's show. He was like emotional. He's like, I don't think people understand how hurt I was. He had to go through detail the fact that he had basically blown up his knee and was lucky to potentially ever play again. And we hadn't had that information because of the way Utah decided to be coy about it, which I don't think is a good look.
It's such a cluster to try to balance. Even if you think it's a 1% chance that it gives you a competitive advantage, like that's something that football guys are they don't care about anything else. They're not on social media. And then on the other side, like you mentioned, football and sports are revolving around the dollar and around this, as we saw this story yesterday, maybe not so upfront business of gambling. And it causes a lot of, I think, direct and also indirect conflicts of interest. I mean, leagues pairing with these companies is a direct conflict of interest on its face. And then we can go further into this conversation and talk about how it gets into locker rooms and gets into the reality of what's down there on the field. So, yeah, it's tough, man. I don't know.
Yeah, just remember, opening tip is brought to you by Prize Picks.
Code ESPN 7.
All right. As you referenced, and I agree with you, I think tomorrow night comes down to one dynamic. Colorado has not been able to stop the run, and that's what Utah wants to do. Any update that you have about Devin Dampier, like when they run out for their first offensive series, who do you think is under center? I think it's Bird. I think it's going to be Bird.
I am leaning that way just from the way that Devin looked post game BYU, the way that Devin looked during the game BYU, and the way that it seems to be the reps are going throughout practice from what we hear. I think it's probably going to be Bird Ficklin. If Devin dresses, I wouldn't be surprised throwing him out there like they tried to do against BYU. But then, listen, you go back to that game in Provo, and when Devin was on the field, you knew he was throwing the football. When Bird walked on, you knew he was running the football. And it was a very clear, like that's something that I don't think you want to tip your hand in that regard either. I think we may see a lot of the freshmen, and that may be starting snap one.
Big 12 style, K-State is a 3.5-point favorite to win over Kansas. Brigham Young, a 2.5-point underdog. That line has moved a couple of times against Iowa State. Cincinnati is getting 3 in the hook against Baylor. Texas Tech is a 37.5-point favorite over Oklahoma State. My goodness. TCU is getting 17 against West Virginia. Arizona State will be without Jordan Tyson this week. And Jordan, of course, is one of the best receivers in the country and clearly Sam Levitt's favorite target. They are still a touchdown favorite at home over Houston, and the aforementioned Utah Utes favored by 13.5 points over Colorado. All right, we'll catch a break. Don't forget Trevor Riley live in studio for an entire hour coming up at 4 o'clock. But the NBA Daily Assist makes its triumphant return with Zach Harper coming up on the other side of a Friday Drive right here on ESPN 700. You're not going to believe me, but I honestly forgot about this bit until just now. And don't bob your head in there. Don't do that. You look like a DJ that's at Club Axis or whatever at 2 a.m. I forgot that the Zach Harper Pitbull bit existed until actually we came into segment.
I've seen some DJs before. DJ Bangarang.
Shout out.
DJ Apocalypse. I've seen him.
Yep.
DJ Diesel.
I don't know
also
who that
known
is.
as Shaq.
Oh, okay. You've actually seen him DJ live?
I have actually.
Okay.
Just because it was Shaq.
Zach Harper, Friday afternoon. It's good to have you back despite the Pitbull, buddy. How we doing?
You missed the Pitbull. You got a little adrenaline there when it kicked in.
You know what's weird? It's been so long, I honestly forgot. But I'm glad it's part of the bit. How you been, dude? What's been going on?
Oh, man, just nothing happening in the sports world, so just laying low.
Well, I do follow you on socials, so I know you did a bunch of traveling. How was the off season?
I did, man. I went to England a couple of times. I went to Italy for the first time. It was great. What a great off season.
I gotta give me some of that cinephobe money, dude. I gotta start traveling the world. I'm jealous, but I'm not a hater. All right, we got to start with this chaos. I mean, look, Chauncey made $106 million as a player, $4.75 million per year as a coach. Rozier, $133 million in his career, $26.6 million this year. So it's obviously not about needing money. But right. What was your initial reaction when you got the alert and your now that you've been able to dig into a little bit, where you at with this crazy story?
Yeah, my initial reaction was just complete bafflement. Because I woke up to this text about Chauncey Billups arrested, and it didn't really process what was happening. So I was like, I just assumed it was like, oh, maybe he got into like a fight, or maybe he got into I don't know, a car accident. I don't know. I didn't know what was going on, and so I start processing. Then I get a call from NBA radio. Hey, we're going live in 20 minutes. Need you to host. So I'm trying to wrap my head around through all this on air, basically, for 3 hours. And now that I've talked to some people, I've gotten to process it a little bit. I feel like, I don't know. I talked to some legal experts, and they the first thing they said was, and this could be agenda driven, but the first thing they said was well, they do just want to win the press conference, talking about the whole Department of Justice and FBI director and all that stuff, right? They're like, he just they wanted to win the press conference. There's not necessarily a ton here. I don't know how much of it I honestly believe, because the NBA did clear Terry Rozier, right? Now, that doesn't mean other stuff hasn't come to light. It doesn't mean they missed anything, but they hire some pretty legit investigators when they go through these investigations. And so, to me, it kind of just feels like using these people as a name to grab attention. At the same time, I don't know how involved you can be in a regular poker game, from the run by the mafia, and not know that something might be going on. So then maybe you would have to be involved. I'm still very on the fence about it, which I know isn't a great take, but I don't know. It just feels like nothing is there, and then maybe something is there at the same time. Yeah,
I mean, the fact of the matter is none of this is new, right? I mean, right. Illegal poker games are going on right now as you and I are talking. I mean, right. They're all over the place. They go on everywhere. They go on at all times of day. And ultimately, gambling in sports is not new. And players and coaches gambling on sports is not new. But I do think the ability that the online stuff gives the league and also the Justice Department, some of that data is pretty undeniable. Some of the proof is pretty undeniable. If you're working for DraftKings and suddenly you're tracking online betting, it's like, hey, we've got $7 million on Jonte Porter over under 5 boards. Can somebody come over? Can we get a manager? There's a certain amount of hubris that goes into believing you can get away with some of this stuff. But if you're Adam Silver, what level of concern? Because whether it's the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball or whatever it is, the potential to have the actual product compromised is what terrifies leaders the most. So what do you think Adam Silver's reaction is going to be to all this?
I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 in terms of concern. It has to be, because the integrity of the league is already questioned every time there is a questionable call in a basketball game since Tim Donaghy, right? Like since that whole fiasco, what was that, 18 years ago? Since that whole fiasco hit, every single time there is a missed call, it is, you'll get some kind of comments about that stuff. So the integrity of your league is already questioned, regularly. Now you have, for the last, 4 years, you have been officially entrenched in online sports betting. And, okay, cool, you made a rule that they can't do prop bets for 10-day players and 10-day contracts and two-way players. That doesn't really do anything. That doesn't really solve the problem. To me, that was always just like you put a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches. And so you have to let the process play out, because it is now official. Like, it's no longer an NBA investigation. Like, this is a federal case that is across 11 states and has, at least for now, 34 people arrested. You have to let the legal process play out, but at the same time, if anything is fishy here, you have to drop the hammer on everybody involved if it turns out that they are in fact guilty. Like, this isn't, I would say, like, okay, they go to jail or if they're guilty or whatever, fine. But this now opens up so many fissures in your league, or opens up even wider. Like, I don't know how you can even navigate this at this point based on the severity of just your league being completely entrenched in controversy.
So, excuse me, we have to be clear. These are all allegations at this point.
Yeah.
And Chauncey's side is the illegal poker games. At least as far as the knowledge that we have, Chauncey Billups has not been charged, or there's no claims that he was betting on games, betting on his team. Right. However, the list that the FBI released of teams that have been named in this, when you look at it, it is the Lakers, because apparently there was information given from Damon Jones, that dude, LeBron's hype man, essentially, who the allegations are Damon Jones would talk to his friend LeBron, and LeBron would say, I'm out tonight with a knee, and then Damon Jones would pass that information on. So it makes sense that the Lakers are on the list. The Charlotte Hornets are on the list, which obviously is where Terry Rozier played. The Toronto Raptors are on the list, and that's where Jonte Porter was. But the Portland Trailblazers are also on this list. Right. So that's the only one where there's no tie other than Chauncey. Now, to your point, we'll have to kind of let it play out, but that smells a little bit fishy to me, does it not?
Yeah, no, it does. And I think the wording, maybe this was in ESPN's article on it, the wording was, based on a game in March of 2023, people sitting out for tanking reasons. And I think the wording was something like the description of the person and their career fits the description of Chauncey Billups, mm-hmm. Right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. There could be a bunch of people that, in terms of like, oh, this player played so many years and they're, a 6'3" guy. Like that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But yeah, like, you have to raise an eyebrow at that. I also, at the same time, look at that as, well, we all knew they were tanking at that point. Right? Like, that's the other part of it where I'm like, yeah, Portland was outright tanking for Wemby towards the end of that season when they realized they weren't going to sniff the play-in tournament. So yeah, of course they're tanking. I don't know if that's insider information, but it does at least give you some pause in thinking, like, yeah, he didn't do that.
There's a school of thought out there that this is the tip of the iceberg. And look, when it comes to people getting arrested and facing serious consequences, we all would flip and give names instead of spending 30 years in jail. So I would not be stunned if this is something that has started and will continue to permeate. Do you believe that this is the start of this thing and we only have bits and pieces of the entire story?
Oh, I absolutely believe this is only the start of it. Even if Chauncey, even if Damon, even if Terry aren't actually guilty of this, it doesn't make me think at any point, even if they're found completely innocent, there's no real evidence against them, no charges dropped, whatever. At no point does it make me think, oh, we've avoided that. We've Euro-stepped that issue. Like, no, I fully believe that there are issues around this league with the online betting. I mean, it is too entrenched at this point. There's too many red flags. I don't think it just starts and ends with Jonte Porter. I don't know how deep it goes, but I do think it can't just possibly be one guy.
All right, moving off of this, ultimately, only time will tell what the next steps are. Give me your thoughts on the now new NBA broadcast landscape. Sportico predicts you're going to have to pay about $700 if you want to watch every single NBA game. And look, nobody watches every single NBA game, but NBC is back. My buddy Travis Henderson left the Jazz. He's now with Amazon, so I'm excited to see what they do tonight. Of course, Inside the NBA has moved over to ESPN. So give me your thoughts on all of it. The new kind of complications of watching NBA basketball this year.
Yeah, I do. I mean, the answer, and I do think it was somewhat taken out of context, but I don't think it was great even still. The answer from Adam Silver a while back saying, well, it's a highlights league. I understand what he was trying to say, and I do think that one line was taken out of context, but even the full context, it isn't great. It is as bad as it came off, but it isn't great. Like I have a real struggle with thinking that this could be good for the consumer long term. I think it's just a hope of, well, everyone streams now, so you'll probably subscribe to it anyway. If you're expecting people to do that, subscribe to Peacock, subscribe to Amazon, subscribe to ESPN or Disney Plus or whatever to get all that bundle. So get League Pass, which is hundreds of dollars. That's a lot, man. That's a lot for casual fans. That's a lot for NBA nerds. That's a ton of money at this point, and I don't think you can just bake it into it. Well, that's the cost of how things are. So I do think there's an issue. I also think having games back on regular airwaves or whatever it is that NBC is, I think that's a massive hit for them. I think that's a big win to get that, because before it was you had to wait for an ABC game, right? And who knows when that's going to be. Now you don't necessarily have to pay anything other than having a TV and an antenna, but that's not all that common anymore anyway. So I do think the NBC part of it is very, very helpful. If you just have games that are just Peacock, okay, now we're getting into murky water. Just Amazon getting into murky water. But I do think I don't know, the NBA is going to have to find some way to bundle it that's way more palatable to fans, because also, I mean, you've dealt with in Utah with a bad product charging full price for tickets, right? And it happens plenty of other places around the league. Tickets are too expensive too. So how are you, you're just hoping that they like it enough in highlights to eventually plop down the money? I don't think that's a good business model.
Well said. And look, I don't know that there was anything about Michael Jordan's debut that would made me think it was anything other than awesome, just because that's who he is. I was eager to see how they were going to use him. It ultimately ended up being a sit down with Wilbon, but I just thought it was really cool, and I want more of it. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I thought even the promotion of it, of just the NBA back on Peacock, was great. Of hey, what do you remember? It's all these guys who weren't alive when last time NBC had the NBA, and then they bring in Michael Jordan, and his that whole marketing ploy was fantastic. The sit down was great. If we, I think we're a little used to, from The Last Dance, watching Michael Jordan talk about things. It's a little petty. We're keeping an eye on what that drink looks like in terms of fullness next to him throughout the conversations and the cuts. So I think we're used to that. I think if he's just candid and honest, and we get, that every couple of weeks or once or twice a month or whatever it ends up being, that cadence for him, I think it only helps the product. I really do. And maybe that's just me being a kid of the 80s and 90s, and, Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time to me and everything. I hope it resonates with all basketball fans, but at least for me, it hit 10 out of 10.
Inside the NBA, of course, Turner Sports, home there for, 40 years or whatever. And I've often said it's one of my favorite shows on TV, not just one of my favorite shows about basketball. It's a little different, though, isn't it, Zach? I can't really pinpoint it. It's still Ernie. It's still those three. Chuck is still Chuck. But maybe it's simply just the move. Maybe it's something subconscious I'm not identifying. Mercury is not currently in retrograde, as you're fully aware. But
trust me, I know.
Oh, no. Believe you and I need to talk off air, bro, with something I have going on right now. But what's your early takeaway about how ESPN is using Inside?
It's weird. I do think it's a subconscious thing, because seeing the ESPN logos all over the place for it did like trigger something where I'm like, what is this? The show itself was great. The show itself was the same pretty much, right? Like, but it's, I don't know, the set and showing the ESPN logos, it did make me think like, oh, this coverage is not about to be what I want it to be, which has just typically been what their TV product is over unfortunately a long time. But but the show itself, I thought it was great. I thought it was hilarious how Shaq was like, no, this is the real opening night. Whatever happened last night didn't work, wasn't real. And Ernie's like, that's a partner, you idiot. Like, I thought that was great. I thought who he broadcast for was great. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like we're going to get it a whole lot until after Christmas. That's the part that sucks. And maybe that's the part where it feels different because hey, this isn't every week right now.
All right, let's talk some ball. A few minutes left here. And look, the Jazz season is currently and will be tied to the topic of they have a top 8 protected pick once again this year. And if they finish, outside of the top 8, that's going to OKC. So it's going to be very similar to what it was a year ago. Right. But for one night, Zach, they looked really, really good. Since you and I last spoke, they did not come to an agreement with Walker Kessler on his rookie extension. Walker actually did some preseason media and admitted that he was pretty pissed off about it. He said he was frustrated. So that's going to be a storyline all year long. I don't know how real the noise was about Ace not wanting to live here, but I love that Austin Ainger's like, I don't care. I am taking him because I do think he was the best player. So let's do a little Jazz. What do you think Jazz fans should be most excited about this year?
I do think the development is always the exciting part, right, of a young team. I think this team will probably be like pretty competitive for a month or two, and then it'll be we got to get AJ, or we got to get Darren Peterson, or we got to get one of the Boozer brothers. Like I think it's going to be that. But you always just want to see steps towards what a player's potential, realizing their potential is going to be. And I think Ace, I know he had a pretty nondescript opening night and debut, but for the most part, I think he's going to be so fun and so exciting. There are going to be plenty of frustrating nights where he doesn't play well, he doesn't shoot the ball well, he does weird things because he's a rookie and he just has that certain mentality as a player. And there are going to be nights where you're like, this kid's putting it together, he's unbelievable, he's the future star. I think his development is huge. I think a mad Walker Kessler is pretty cool to have, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get this contract this summer. I think you want to see that. I think you want to see that streak out of him. Everyone else throughout the roster, I mean, I don't love the front court, outside of Lowry and Walker. Like I just think it's such a weird mix of players who maybe don't even need to be in the NBA right now with Nurk and with Love and everything. But I do think like the development of the guards, the development of Ace Bailey, all the young players, seeing Taylor Hendricks back, like that to me is the story of the season, of just tracking that.
Yeah, and Ace did have the flu, which is why they limited his minutes. I think they're going to start him because my understanding is they just want to throw him in the deep end and say, swim, young fella. He's a really sweet kid. Like, all of the conversation about him being a malcontent, I think, was really unfair. He obviously had somebody representing him who was not qualified for that role. Ace is no longer represented by him, which I think is a good sign. If I asked you, and you've been coming on the show for 6 years, so I don't love comps, but have you heard one about Ace that feels right? Like, if he stays healthy, if he puts in the work, like what he can be when it is fully baked.
Like I don't know. I haven't heard a great comp. Like I heard someone told me, a scout told me, like a not nearly as physical Carmelo, right? And Carmelo was such a bully, and obviously, like, I don't know but that type of player was like, that he's going to be a nightmare to guard, right? Like he's just going to be one of those guys who can get to his spots wherever he wants, and if the shot's falling, you're cooked. Like you're going to give up 30. Before the draft, during the draft, and after the draft, this kid's a bad kid. Based on what? He had a horrible person managing him throughout that entire process, and you didn't hear Ace. You heard everything from this guy, and to me, it was all about this guy's trying to be like a major player in this world after, and I'm not even saying this as like this is his fault, but like he thought his son was going to be this, and his son is a fringe NBA player, right? And then his image and everything. I've never bought Ace Bailey's a bad kid. He's a malcontent. You don't want that personality. Like everything I've heard about the actual person from people who would know seem to rave about him. So I think he's a great figure to try to build up into a star in Utah.
One more Jazz question. We'll get some big picture stuff, and I'll set you loose. They're very adamant that they will not trade Markkanen, but it's not like they're going to hold a presser and be like, hey, guys, breaking news, we are actively shopping Markkanen. So right. Nothing comes out this way that they're going to move him, but it seems like whether it's Zach Lowe or Chris Mannix or whoever, most people believe that he's very available. If they're going to do it, I think they should have done it when he came off his all-star year when the value was high. But look, he's still really good, but he is a max-level player. Do you think Lauri Markkanen will be on the roster all year?
No, I don't. I've granted, I haven't heard any of this from around Utah, so I want that to be clear. Like this is, the call's not coming from inside the house. But I've heard from a lot of people around the league that they believe Lauri Markkanen is one, very available, and two, will be moved before the deadline. And are just kind of playing coy on this. It's all third hand, so who knows? And people can certainly put things out there with their agenda to make to try to turn the perception of what that's going to be and what that needs to look like for certain players and their trade availability. So it could be just BS across the board, but it also just doesn't make sense for me to have him on that team in the short term or long term. I just don't think that's where they are. I think they could. It's very Danny Ainge and now Austin Ainge, I guess, to move someone like that and bring in more assets when you're clearly in a rebuilding mode. It wouldn't make sense to have this, I hate the whole two timeline thing where everyone tries to, be the smartest person across two timelines when it's hard to be one across one timeline. So I don't think that's the move. I also think I'm with you. They probably should have done it before when he was coming off his All-NBA, All-Star season. He also had a great summer that did kind of move his Q rating back up. Maybe not where it was, but much higher than it had been the last year or two. And so I think with what he did for Finland, what he could possibly look like this season, I do think that trade value will be pretty high.
All right, big picture before we set you loose. In the West, Vegas likes OKC, Denver, Houston, Minnesota, Golden State. Those are the top 5 teams as far as odds go to win the championship. In the East, excuse me, it's Cleveland, New York, Orlando, Philly, and Milwaukee. So those are the top teams as far as the odds go to win the championship. Outside of OKC, who else has a puncher chance out this way to get to the finals and win the thing?
Oh, I think Denver should be the favorite.
Oh, interesting.
I legitimately do. And that's no shot at OKC. They're great. They're historically great. I get it, but a really bad Denver team took them to 7 games last year, and then cured all of their issues in terms of roster construction. We'll find out if David Adelman can really coach, but that team looks so loaded to me. And as good as OKC is, they still don't have anybody to guard Jokic. So with him with a better supporting cast and a backup center that isn't going to just hemorrhage points for them, I do think Denver's at least my. If you think that's crazy and you want to go with OKC, that's totally valid. They definitely proved it last year, but I'll take the best player in the world here.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the best player in the world thing. And if Aaron Gordon's going to shoot like Ray Allen circa 1999, maybe we've got something. Last night was wild, dude. But what about out east? Same question. Who do you like and why?
I like New York. It's a little bit by default. There's part of me that can talk myself into Milwaukee just making things as ugly as possible, and then Giannis just carries them. Cleveland, I just have been so unimpressed with their postseason the last 3 years. I got to see it to believe it. Orlando, I don't think is there yet. I know they scored a lot of points and they shot well in game 1. I thought they're yet, but yeah, to me it's New York, and I think New York's really good. They probably are the best team in the East. I think Mike Brown's a really good hire. We'll see if they stay healthy because they're already having some issues with that. But I think New York, a little bit by default, is.
All right, Zach, appreciate the time, man. Great to have you back. And it means basketball is back, and that's always good. Have a good weekend, buddy. We'll chat next week.
And it means Pitbull is back. Dale.
All right. You know, it was such a great hit right until the end. I'm getting feedback from the listeners about Friday Voice. I know. I'm working through it. It's the last day of the week, 4 hours a day, 20 hours of radio a week. Means the voice is going to be a little bit,
Was it Trey?
No. Trey loves the voice. He has no choice. And I know he's listening. Oh, Trey's probably celebrating because Harper just picked Denver to win the West. That's a good team.
It is.
They made some good additions. I mean, Aaron Gordon was – did you watch last night? He was 10 of 11 from three. It was wild.
As long as they got that guy running things, they're going to be really good. They're going to contend. So, congrats, Trey.
Cam Johnson's a good addition. What can Tim Hardaway Jr. give them? To me, it always comes down to Jamal.
Yeah.
Because you know what Jokic is going to do. It comes down, is Jamal healthy, and does he look like he did when they won the championship?
I've always liked Hardaway Jr. I think he's always been on, not great teams. Unfortunately, he's a Knicks fan. I saw that firsthand. So, I think they've got some good pieces. I'm probably with Zach early on, probably with Zach on that one.
They brought Bruce Brown back, who was part of their championship team. For me, it's OKC, and then there's a gap. Everybody else, Denver included. Zach stops by, courtesy of our friends at IFA Country Stores. With IFA's Step 4 fall and winter lawn food, you'll get stronger roots now and an early green up next spring. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. More at your local IFA or at IFA.coop. Friday Voice in full effect. We'll try again coming up with Craig Bowlerjack on ESPN 700. It's the Super Bowl every day around here, Porter. There's no time to sit out with injury. So I'm going to make it to 6 o'clock tonight.
Iron Man.
Dealing with a little Friday voice, our next guest has one of those voices that we're all just jealous of. Craig Bolerjack, how do you keep the voice? I am limping to the finish line, my friend. What do I need to do? How do you keep that voice where it needs to be?
I've been there. I have been there. You know what, pal? Rest. A little hot tea, try some honey. I mean, there's all those, homegrown concoctions that supposedly works. But, man, I tell you, when you feel a little weak in the voice, it just kind of puts you on alert, doesn't it? It's one of my biggest fears. It's like I panic. So I just try to take it easy, man. So get out of the studio tonight. I know you'll take it through the 6 o'clock. And then just go home and just watch TV and enjoy the weekend, man.
I'm trying to think who it was. He was on Dan Patrick's show. He's like a movie star. He's the voice behind Hard Knocks on HBO, and he's got a great voice. And Dan asked him, how do you get the voice? And he said whiskey and cigarettes. I'm not sure if that's the right way to roll, but that's another train of thought, is it not?
Oh, that's funny. It's whiskey and cigarettes. I'll be honest. I get asked this sometimes, and I think I hear myself different than other people. But I got in trouble a lot as a kid just because the teachers, I always knew when I went home, and they would pin a note to my coat or sweater or shirt that, what did I do? And usually it was always the same thing. Can you please tell Craig not to talk so loud in class? I go, Mom, I'm not doing anything. Well, honey, just try to keep the voice down, And I don't know. It just, I was lucky. My mom, had a really great set of pipes. She actually worked for Bell Telephone as an operator when she was younger, and my dad was a drill sergeant. So maybe I just kind of took that, and went on.
My parents received different sorts of calls about me in class, Craig, but we do not have to bring that on air today.
Oh,
hey,
that's the documentary someday down the road. Right?
Yes, but when the story is told, people will not believe what is actually true. But I got a few years left, so hopefully we can write some other chapters. But I'll tell you what, Bowler, how about these young Utah Jazz night one? I'm getting texts from people like, dude, are you watching? And I was dialed in right from the start. So let's just start with that game, and then we'll pan back. What stood out most to you with 129-108 over the L.A. Clippers?
I think, it was the beginning of the game, and there was energy, continuity. Use all the verbiage you want. But, look, you put 43 points up in the opening quarter against a veteran Hall of Fame, soon-to-be Hall of Fame L.A. Clipper team. I mean, they're loaded, and they're the oldest team in the NBA. Now, did they take the Jazz seriously? I'm not so sure. But you know what? I don't think it mattered, Spence. The movement of the ball was fantastic. The defense, which was dead last, as you know, in the league last year, actually had great life and great continuity. Now, look, that's one game, and they've been practicing, and this young group wants to prove that they can go out and compete and win. But, man, you get 38 assists. Is the highest scoring opening night win for the Jazz. They put up 129. And I think the other part of it was that the defense was impressive. Their ability to switch, their ability to move, their ability to play the zone. Confused, I thought, the Clippers, but the 11 steals. Walker got 4 of the 6 block shots. And there you go. You just have a very lively group of young guys who seem to finally have decided that they're tired of not winning, and they can show that they do have the potential to be a very good team in the West and beyond. So it's one game. So tonight I'm intrigued to see how they react to that success, the fun they had in the locker room, the feel-good moments. But, man, as you know, the road is a difficult place. And, I don't care if it's Sacramento. They got beat in their opener against Phoenix, but it's still a difficult place to play, and they've just got to stay focused. And that'll be the next challenge for a bunch of young guys, is just stay on the same page. And I'm anxious to see how they react tonight.
I want to ask you about some individual players, but in our business, they teach you not to bury the lead. So we got to start with Walker because, geez,
yeah.
I mean, and look, if he's a little bit frustrated about not getting paid, I'm okay with that. Go get your money, kid. Like, go earn it this year. That's fine.
Right.
That's fine. That's his job. And one night in the books, I mean, 22 points, 9 boards, 4 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals, couple of threes, which, okay, let's get going. That's a historical stat line, Craig, that has not been put up since 1976. So tell me what you saw from him that night and what you anticipate from him all year.
Well, I've talked to Walker a lot, and look, he is uber focused. And I think, on opening media day, he said his piece. And you know what? I think that's a smart way to do it. Look, you know what? I say what I say. Now I'm going to go play. And he's grown up a lot from his first year, even his second year, when he had a sophomoric slump and had that shoulder injury. But Spence, I've watched him in practice and shoot-arounds, and the three ball's real. I mean, he can hit it. But, again, how does that translate, right, into a game-type situation? And I was as shocked as anyone watching or in the building to say, man, the guy just went out and just launched one, not one but two, and they were sweet. You know what I've watched? He has more spring. He's been well coached. He's using the legs. I think he's going to be better at the free throw line too. But if you watch his release, he's up a little bit on the toes and able to arc the shot better. And, boy, to get a couple early in game one should only just, elevate his confidence. But he's still, he's not going to live out there. But, man, what he did was a great combination of work, right? I mean, it was of a complete game. Didn't miss a shot, 7 for 7, 4 blocks. I mean, the 9 rebounds. I mean, they want him to do a lot, and he did it. And also I thought he spread the floor some. And that's something else they wanted him to do, to allow space for Markkanen to work. And I thought he did a great job. I mean, that's what they want him to do, and I thought he delivered big.
Everyone's going to talk about Ace all year, but I like me some Walter Clayton Jr., okay? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I liked him all year, and I loved that Austin identified him and went and got him. One of my favorite anecdotes, you may have heard this, when Brad Stevens was informed that Austin had drafted Walter Clayton Jr., Brad said, I would have told you 2 years ago he was going to go draft him. Like, Austin has always liked Walter Clayton Jr. He's got decent size, but he actually has more experience. He's played more basketball than either Keontae or Isaiah. He is a winner. He can knock down shots. He is a kid that plays really hard, and he's just really heady. I think, Craig, he will be the starting point guard for this team at some point this year, and I think once he gets that job, he is going to take it. So we'll get to Ace, we'll get to the other players, but in one night, 18 minutes, tell me what you saw from Walter Clayton Jr.
Well, first one, as you just hit on, was you could tell he's a 4-year college player. 2 at Iona, 2 at Florida, was on the big stage just months ago, winning a national championship. Won the honor for, what do they call it now? Not MVP, most outstanding.
Final Four, most outstanding player. Yeah, most outstanding player, yeah.
And you know what? I talked to him. He's cool, calm. He said to me on opening night, look, he was nervous, but, Spence, he's kind of been there on a big platform, a big stage, national championship. Man, you got to work your way through a lot of great teams and a lot of stress to cut down the nets. And he did so. Thurl's got a really great, feeling for him as well, because Thurl did the same thing in '83 at, North Carolina State with Jimmy V. So they talked a lot about just the 4 years of experience and what it brings. Yeah, he's a rookie, but I think he's much ahead, just in the maturation, right, of it all. And maybe he isn't as overwhelmed as some of the 18 and 19-year-olds that come around in this league, which is becoming more and more, dominant every year. But I thought his minutes off the bench, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. I'm looking at the box score again, 10 points. And again, defensively, this is what Will and Austin were talking about. We got to step up the defensive presence, and we got to be able to get into passing lanes. And, the Jazz, they were there all night. They hounded Kawhi. They hounded Harden. And, you pick up 11 steals in a game, good things are going to happen. But I tell you, Walt is intriguing, and he's got to – don't get me wrong here, but I'm always looking at the personality of kind of that assassin-like John Stockton-ish just approach to the game, where he is just uber cool. I'm not sure he really breaks a sweat either, to be honest with you, but he just has this savvy when you meet him that, like, hey, how you doing? I belong here. And that's really my take on him early.
It was funny watching him guard Chris Paul, and like he wasn't born when Chris Paul first came into the league, and you're like, it's just wild, the age discrepancy. But Craig, I don't mean to be cynical. I think it's just part of the nature of my personality, and I apologize for it. When it comes to Keontae, I just got to see it. Okay, I'm just going to wait and see it. It seems like there's been a lot of conversation from the organization about what a great offseason he had, and I'm always skeptical when most of the information is coming from the organization, with all due respect. There have been plenty of moments throughout the first few years where you see some things and you're like, okay, all right, this kid's got a little something, but he's never sustained it. It's the inefficiency shooting the basketball, and he was 1 of 7 from 3 the other night. It's the decision-making that was pretty good the other night. He had 9 assists, but mostly it is either the disinterest or not knowing how to guard, and he was better, had a couple of steals night 1. So tell me what you've heard about this magical offseason he's apparently had, and what do you think that's going to look like this year?
That's a great conversation, one that would probably go 30 minutes or more. But, Keontae, I feel, and his relationship with Thurl and I and the broadcast crew, it's changed drastically. He's a much more open book to come in and discuss things. I think that he has planted the seeds of positivity with some help. And what I mean by that is just that I think the league is turning to a new way of dealing with 18 and 19-year-olds, Spence. You and I weren't ready. I can't even imagine what I would have been like to have an opportunity like this. And so I think the league and the Jazz are really looking at the wellness of young players coming in and helping with the transition. Keontae may be a year or two behind that, but I think this summer he found a direction that he hasn't had. I think he found some new confidence. He's more open, which I think is good. Look, some players, they can shut themselves off, and anger, disappointment, resentment kind of comes into play and can really saddle you. And Keontae was probably there in the second half of the season when they put him to the bench and put Isaiah Collier in at the point guard. But I find him as a different young guy, and I don't know if it's just third year that he's decided to make a jump and put some of the issues behind him. But, yeah, consistency will always be a concern for most players in this league unless you're an absolute superstar. But, again, he had 2 steals, and I'm looking again at the game. The 3 wasn't falling, but he was able to really get the team moving early. I thought the ball movement, Spence, when you were watching, I mean, they were throwing that ball like the old days, the blender with Quinn. And I'll tell you another guy, Svi Mikhailuk is another guy. He started because Ace is still battling the flu and trying to get back into shape. But he was able to distribute and move that extra kick pass out front or in the corner. And I just thought they were all in sync. And it was really kind of put together and started out front with Keontae. And the 9 assists of the 38, belong to Key. So I was excited for him. I hope he builds on it. Yeah,
this really was one of those games where we could probably talk about everybody outside of Ace. And I'm not being critical because I was told that he had the flu. And by the flu, he was in bed for 5 days. And I want to be very clear. Like this is the first player probably since Donovan where I've been like, yep, all right, let's ride. Let's go with this kid. Throw him in the deep end. Let's see what he can do. It's going to be, I think Cooper Flagg is the overwhelming favorite to be Rookie of the Year. And, VJ Edgecombe the other night it's going to be tough for him to win the thing, but I do think he'll be in the conversation. I am super high on him, you know what I mean? So, we can't really focus on one night, but let's pan back and just kind of tell our listeners what excites you most about Ace Bailey.
I think he's a 3-level scorer, Spence. I think he has the body to drive and find space and squeeze through and finish. I think he's got some mid-range to him. And also, he can step out and hit the 3. He's long. Will spoke many times about all the players putting, their hands in passing lanes, but he's got the length to do so. I think he's a happy guy here. There was talk prior to, well, maybe not, but no. He's made some changes in his own personal life with a new agent. I don't know much about that, but that tells me that things weren't going right, at the beginning. And I think the Jazz have embraced him. He's embraced this team. He's surrounded by multiple players that are just like, in the same situation of trying to build something. And he could definitely be a huge centerpiece. Athletic, can run the floor. Who's ever running the point. Walker runs the floor well too, Market. And they've got speed on the floor, Spence. And Ace is just another piece of that to bust it down and like running on a track. And Will wants to try to. He talked to T and I the other day. That the pace. He still wants it higher, and I think they're trying to push the ball, past the center court line a second or so earlier, just to be able to have, more offensive sets and some more time to get the best shot. So Ace is a huge part of what they're going to do. There's no doubt. And I think the hype, they don't want to overhype it, but they want him to just ease a bit into this, and especially being sick hadn't helped. And, yeah, he was laid up for quite a while. And tonight, I think we'll see him again coming off the bench, but with a much more, let's just say he's got his breath. He's been working out the last day and a half, and I think he feels a lot better. So this may be a night that we really kind of get a better feel for his game.
You remember Jabari Parker, right? Coming out of college, he played at Duke.
Sure.
So I always really marveled at Jabari as an individual scorer and a shot maker, but I just never was super confident he was going to be able to get his body in shape. And every year he would show up, he kind of looked the same. And because he either couldn't or refused to get himself in NBA shape, he ended up overseas. I think now he's in Serbia. So I was curious to see the way Bryce Sensabaugh looked, because he just had a little bit of Jabari to him, where it's like, okay, good shot maker, very skilled, aesthetically pleasing shot, fundamentally sound. He can knock down shots. Can he get in shape? He looks, Craig, like he's in shape. Does he look like he's in shape to you?
Oh, absolutely. Totally night and day. He is trimmed down, but put the muscle where it has to be. His confidence is sky high. You remember the slump he had last year, mid-season, and then after the All-Star break, just lit it up. I mean, he has a shot that, is about as pretty to watch in the release. I mean, last year he goes 42%. Preseason he was 43. He gave the Jazz 20 on opening night and dropped 3 triples. I mean, I wonder if this is really who he is. And I think the only thing the Jazz want him to do is to play, within the flow. But also, again, if you want to play minutes for Will Hardy, it's very well noted that you got to play some D. And I think he's worked hard on that in the offseason. He's talked about that to us and about feet, position. And, again, it's all about putting a hand in the lane just to disrupt. And, I think he's getting it. I think he understands that he's more than just a shooter, and he needs to be, Spence, right? I mean, he needs to be more than just a guy that jumps off the bench and specializes in one thing. You can play a long time in this league by hitting the 3-ball, but you'll play longer and you'll probably hit some high achievements if you're part of a team that has a team concept defensively. And I like him. He has a Kyle Korver, Jeff Hornacek kind of mentality, and I think most shooters have to. They put things behind them, and then they just move forward. I mean, three-point shooters are a different breed. Like, you can't get too high. I know it's been overused, but it's true. You can't get too high, can't get too low. And I think Bryce it could be a special piece. Could he start if necessary? But I think he's still a huge piece of offense and hopefully some defense that Will can use in that second unit.
Brings me to Taylor, and so good to see him out there, and so good to see him not just healthy but looking strong, looking built. 13 points, 6 boards, knocked down a couple threes, got to the free throw line. I think as we go here and this team evolves, he is going to draw the assignment on the Kawhis, on the LeBrons, on the Durants. I think he'll probably be asked to guard the other team's best perimeter scorer as we move throughout the evolution of this team. But tell me just kind of the buzz around Taylor, how his health is, and what you expect this year.
Oh, he looks great. I mean, up close to him, not even the same player that he was as a rookie. And then, of course, sadly got hurt nearly a year ago on October 28th. We were in Dallas, and I remember that night. Sometimes, Spence, in the stands, you can just have a weird angle. And I could just tell the minute I saw him and the weight shifted, and it happened in a millisecond. but it's amazing what your mind's eye sees, and I thought that's bad. And sometimes that's a career ender, you know, but with the medical marvels they have now and techniques and surgery and rehab, but you have to work. It's up to you. It's lonely. And anybody who's been injured understands that, right? I mean, you really got to put the work in. And not only did he get big and healthy, strong, I think his mind's right. You know, he talks about faith, and let's talk about it, because he really believes that, you know, he was pushed by his faith to make sure he came back. And I'm just glad for the guy. I mean, he's terrific. And I think, you know, he could be a big part, too, as a defender. And you're spot on. I think he's going to draw some tough assignments defensively. And I think his body is prepared to pick that up.
All right, Bowler, before I set you loose, a lot of people know you as the TV voice of the Utah Jazz, and a lot of people know you as somebody that covered a lot of other things for a long, long time. And last week was a consequential week around here as Brigham Young took care of Utah in the 104th edition of that rivalry game. What are just some of your memories? You covered it on the radio space. You were with KSL a number of years ago on TV, so you have a good perspective. BYU 3 straight wins now. What do you make of what we saw in the Holy War last week?
Well, there's some talent there. The one thing that jumps out to me is speed, defensively punishing at times. And then I go right to the quarterback, who does not look like a true freshman, and Bear Brockmeyer. I mean, wow. Can take a hit, drags defenders with him. Has a very decent above-average arm. Seems to understand the offense, Spence, extremely well. Can read off, you know, on his second or third, you know, reads his progressions, and just seems like he's – I mean, it's hard not to overhype him because he has very few faults that we've seen so far. And he seems to come up with the big play. And I think Utah knows that too. Last week's game was intriguing. You know, there's some good things at Utah. But, again, I've been wondering if there's been an update on Dampier's health, if Kyle's released that. I haven't seen it. But, you know, Colorado this week, there'll be a lot of hype with Dion. And then, of course, BYU, Iowa State. And that was a team that, remember, Utah kind of got knocked off the stage early, and they've always been trying to make this comeback. But I'll tell you, the Big 12, right? Good football. They're almost knocking each other off every week. So it's still really, in a way, kind of wide open, and it's fun. BYU right now, man, they're making noise, and people are going to have to really look. This game this weekend will even be a bigger step if they come back to Provo 8-0, because the road's not easy, as we all know. But that team's good. They seem to be, on target. But Kalani, who a few years ago there was a whispers about, is he going to get the Cougars back to where they could or should be? Well, fans got their answer. I thought he's done a great job recruiting and putting the right pieces together. That team runs, that team hits, and that team wins. And a guy named Bear is the centerpiece of it right now.
What does one do on a random afternoon in Sacramento, Craig?
Well, I do still, I kind of take this game as a test. So I prep it, and I'm writing a few things right now. And then I watch a lot of TV, but behind my ear. I don't really watch it. I listen, and it just kind of helps fill the space. And then I talk to you on radio, and I like that. So,
all right, my friend.
And then I jump in a shower and jump on a bus and jump on the floor, and then get on a flight and come home tonight at 1:30 or 2 in the morning, and we'll rinse and repeat. Do it again.
There you go. Well, I got to say, this is as juiced as I've been about the Jazz in a few years. So hopefully this continues. Have a good call tonight, my friend, and travel safe, okay?
All right, pal. And take care of the voice. We'll talk soon.
There you go. Craig Bolerjack, TV voice of the Utah Jazz. And, yes, I'm dealing with what we call Friday voice. In the business, Craig stops by today, courtesy of IFA Country Stores. With IFA Step 4 Fall and Winter Lawn Food, you'll get stronger roots now and an early green up next spring. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. More can be found at your local IFA or at IFA.coop. We will check in at the Bank of Utah Championship at the Black Desert Resort coming up next with Paul Pugmire. Don't forget Trevor Riley live in studio for the entire 4 o'clock hour. Then we'll say goodnight at 6 on ESPN 700. Trevor Riley's going to stop by during the 4 o'clock hour today. Trevor, once upon a time, was a player for the University of Utah and an assistant for the University of Colorado. And Utah plays Colorado coming up tomorrow night at 8:15. Our pregame coverage begins at 4:15. Utah trying to bounce back after a loss against BYU. Colorado coming off a bye. Our next guest chickened out last week and did not give a score prediction for BYU Utah. But we will talk some golf with Paul Pugmire, who we find down south. Hello, Paul. How are you, sir?
Yeah, it is so nice down here. And I still feel bad about fritzing out on you, Spencer. I missed that moment.
No, you were Michael Jordan, who once said Republicans buy sneakers too. I understand the deal. It's all good. So, at the risk of me getting mad at you, because I wish I was there, and you are, paint a picture for me. Say it's beautiful. What's it like down there this week?
Well, it is beautiful, but let me paint the picture. First of all, Black Desert is known for the layers of color: green grass, a white bunker, more green grass, a red vista, dark mountains, blue sky, and that's exactly what we are seeing right now. The layers of color. The sky is crystalline. It is flawless, a beautiful blue. It's calm. It's warm. Scoring conditions are ideal, and there are a couple of players who have gone low today.
Had a chance to play it 3 weeks ago now, and
Nice,
it was more or less tournament ready. I think the greens were rolling out at a 12. I hit a very nice approach on, I think it was 8, that's a par 3, and then proceeded to 3-putt for a bogey, which bummed me out. So tell me how the track's playing. Tell me how, you told me how it's looking. How's it playing? You said scoring conditions are ideal, but what are some of the characteristics of the course now that the PGA Tour is there?
It is running a little quick. I spoke with Ken Yates, the superintendent, yesterday. Greens are stimping at 12.5, so they're just a half foot faster than what you saw, and what you saw was quick. So the putts are rolling out, and this is a Tom Weiskopf design. And whenever we're talking about the course, it needs to be in the context of thinking about what Mr. Weiskopf did on a golf course that he built. And this was his last design before he succumbed to cancer, and it has all of his signature characteristics, one of which is large greens that are highly undulated and sectioned. And you can get in the wrong section of a green. It still counts as a GIR, but you're not nearly done. You're out of position. And so it's really interesting in that context to look at the defending champion, Matt McCarty. McCarty shot 28 on his first 9 holes this morning. It was the back 9 with the way they do the waves on Thursday and Friday, but he shot 28. And you think, oh my gosh, are we on a 59 watch? And the answer is no. Golf has a way of kicking back, but Black Desert has a way of kicking back as well. And when he played the par 3 third hole that has the bunker in the middle of the green, he was just slightly offline for the pin position, and it kicked the ball to the other side of the bunker. And so he's on the putting surface, but he has to hit a pitch shot over the bunker. And, it's just things like that Black Desert kicks back. And then, like perhaps you saw in your playing partners, if you are just slightly off, the difference between a good shot, especially a drive, and reloading because you're in the black lava can be just so small. And that is stepping up and grabbing the guys this afternoon as well.
Let me ask you about a couple of the storylines surrounding it. One player who elected not to participate was Colin Morikawa. We did have Patrick Manning on the show this week, so he discussed that a little bit. But what's your understanding as to why that ultimately didn't transpire?
I don't know a lot about the backstory on that, and I've seen Patrick here a few times. We've sat and talked, but we didn't get into Patrick. So let me ask you. Sounds like you know more than me on this one.
He kind of punted on it, and I figured that he would, but he did indicate that they thought it was kind of a done deal, and it fell apart at the last minute for whatever reason. So there wasn't really a tangible answer, and I didn't figure there would be. He wanted to talk about the golfers that are in the field, and so do I. But I will ask you about one more golfer who didn't play, and that's Tony. And Patrick basically alluded to the fact that that was pretty close to happening as well, but I guess he's not fully healthy. Is that accurate?
Yeah, when I had a chance to talk with Tony in some detail, it's been 3 weeks ago now at Cougar Days at Riverside, and Tony was limping. He was visibly not right. And we were talking about his recovery process from the foot surgery, and I asked him about Black Desert, and he kind of grimaced and he said, I don't think so. He says there's a chance I'll be ready by then, but realistically, I've got to give it 2 more weeks than that. And I really think that's what it is for Tony. It's a stress fracture, and stress fractures, of course, come about from repetitive action. And there's nothing more repetitive than a world-class golf swing. And it's the kind of thing that I think Tony is wise not to push. But from my understanding, that's what it was. It was just an unfortunate confluence on the calendar. It just wasn't quite there.
I know you've been around and played on a lot of great courses and have met a lot of big-time golfers. But was there a moment this week so far that you turned around and you're like, "Holy smokes, that's whoever, Max Homa"? Do you get taken back when you see any of these guys anymore?
Yeah, I totally do. Look, I'm a geek through and through, and a fan first and last, and. So yeah, there's a bunch of that. So Max Homa's here. Interestingly, he's hurt as well. He's limping, but he's gaming through it. But it's been fun to see Max Homa. Jason Day is here, and look, the guy's a major champion. He's a former number 1. You see Jason Day, and you go, oh my gosh, that's Jason Day. It's really fun to see that kind of stuff. But there's. The thing about a PGA Tour event is everything is at a higher level. There's an electricity in the air. Everything is done to a tighter tolerance, and you turn around and there's faces and names up and down the sidewalk, up and down the dining area. Everything is like that, and that's a lot of fun.
Any celebrity sightings outside of Paul Pugmire that are not golfing?
There's first of all, Paul Pugmire's no celebrity, but other than that, I haven't seen a lot. I see a lot of people I know. This is a bit of a reunion of Utah golf. A lot of the people involved in the Utah game are here. Like right now, I turn around and I see Corey Badger, one of the top teachers in the state. Yeah, he's here because his friend and partner Tommy Sharp made the field, and Tommy's playing. So every time you turn around, you're bumping into somebody you know.
Are you telling me that you don't get? Wait, aren't you Paul Pugmire from The Drive with Spence Checketts? You don't get that, Paul?
Well, I do get. You sound like this guy I heard on Checkett's show. Do you know him? And so.
Okay, well there we go. Well, that's a modicum of celebrity, Paul. So embrace it. Let me ask you this. I think our listeners would be interested, and I shared with you my experience both on and off air, being a honorary observer down at Arnie's course and watching that, and that was my first time watching professionals up close. I had never been to a PGA Tour event. I had played in some media am tournaments where our opportunity to play with some of the guys that are playing in the amateur, the state am. You and I have played in those tournaments and seen both the men and the women that are college golfers. Steele DeWalt, fascinating to watch that kid hit the ball as far as he does. What stands out most to you when you have an opportunity to be this close to these golfers as far as what they're able to do that makes them pros and makes them the best at what they do in the world?
So, like Patrick Manning, I'm going to talk about somebody who's in the field here. Aldrich Potgieter. He's young. I think he's still 20 years old, South African. He has the highest club head speed and the highest ball speed on the PGA Tour. And the PGA Tour is mostly a sea-level tour, and they view this, St. George, as playing at elevation. And so Potgieter is, first of all, you just watch him, and the speed he swings at is otherworldly. He makes a sound that's just a little bit different, and different in a very good way. And then you watch the flight of the ball, and it doesn't come down. It just keeps tracking and keeps tracking and keeps tracking. That's been so impressive to watch in person. Now, I knew it would be that way because I've read all the numbers and I've read stuff that gets written about him, but you see it in person and it's different. Watching Aldridge Potgieter's really been something special.
All right, let me ask you about some of the individual golfers. Billy Horschel, I believe Billy was hurt this year. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So he hasn't played as much, but he's a big name. And I'm seeing that he had a little bit of a rough start, but really he's been pretty solid, right? 5 under today. So what's it been like to watch Billy Horschel? How has he been able to kind of make his way around the course?
Well, first of all, he is a big name. He's a former FedEx Cup champion. You don't trip into that by accident. And it's been he is one I failed to mention him, but he's one that came to my mind when you asked about celebrities. Horschel is that. It's been really interesting. He did get off to a bit of a rough start, and I think that was reflective of I don't think he's fully recovered yet from his injury and hasn't found his game footing yet. But then, once he got into a rhythm, it's like he remembered, oh, yeah, I'm Billy Horschel. And he started just hitting the fairways and hitting the greens. And that's always what's required to beat a tough golf course. And this course, especially this course, has such a distinct difference between a reasonably good shot and a not just so shot, because there's just no margin once you get to the black lava. You're reloading. And so that very clear demarcation between grass and black lava makes this course really tough on somebody who might not be hitting every fairway, because a missed fairway is a lot more than a stat. It could be you're adding 2 shots to the hole, and that dog don't hunt. Horschel has been hitting fairways, and it's showing in his score.
Maverick McNeely is below the cut line, 71-72, but 71-72, but another big name at the tournament that we weren't really expecting. So very cool that he's there, but what has led to his struggles?
Maverick hasn't been hitting the fairways as much, and he's been on the wrong side of greens the bit that I've seen him. And so a green in regulation, it won't show up in the stats, but again, Tom Weiskopf design, and you see him on the wrong sector of the green, and it's very defensive. At that point, he's not trying to make a putt. He's trying to not 3-putt, and that's a totally different kind of thing. It just is not sustainable. You can't keep that going over 18 holes, especially over 4 days. And Maverick, who's always been a little bit of a favorite of mine because, you know, he was at Stanford when the old Pac-12 had its championship at the Country Club in Salt Lake City, and I followed him a couple of days there. At the time, he was one of the top-ranked amateurs in the world, and it was fun to watch him then, and I followed him since.
There we go. Got you back.
Had it.
Sorry, Paul, you're just
okay.
breaking up just a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, we're at the mouth of Snow Canyon, and the cell service can be a bit spotty, but I'm glad we're back.
So
anyway, Matt.
Yeah, sorry. No, finish your answer. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Maverick has just been on the edge. He hasn't been smelling the joint up, but he's just been missing a fairway here and there and been on the wrong sector of the green, so he has to putt defensively, and you can't score when you're doing that.
All right, let's move over to Sahith. Sahith Theegala, bright young star on the tour. He is, he's 4 under. So he's in the mix. He's played pretty well. Tell me what you've seen from him, how his game fits the Black Desert Resort.
Sahith's fairways, and so it fits here really well. And Sahith is another one we followed since college because he played at Pepperdine, so he was coming to the Cougar Classic at Riverside back in the old WCC days. And so Sahith I think he's a good fit for this course. He's one that would make total sense to me that he would win on this course. He hits fairways, and he doesn't give a lot of shots back.
That is that's a formula for going low, and Jason Day is also right next to him at 4 under. So tell me what you've seen from Jason Day, and also who's drawing the biggest gallery? Which golfer are people following the most?
What a great question. Jason Day absolutely has an awfully lot of attention. Zach Blair, one of our local favorites, he's had a big gallery the whole time here, and Zach's playing well. Zach definitely has himself a ticket to the weekend. But Jason Day, it's kind of an interesting backstory, part of why he's here. He is an equipment free agent, and he's searching for new clubs, and he is testing equipment here this week. He is playing some 3D printed convex face, rounded face irons, trying to test those out this week. And he came here to give them a test with the lights on.
And then I'll ask you about one more golfer before we actually give the leaders their due, because they deserve it. But Max Homa has put himself in the mix. He's tied for 8th right now, and he's 6 under par, another big name that did not have a great year this year, Paul, if we're honest. So what have you seen from Max?
Well, he did not have a great year this year, and he's here because he needs points, straight up. Max is playing for a job. And but the thing is, Max has been hurt. He is limping shot to shot, and he's obviously in pain. And yet he's gritting it through, and he's making birdies, and he's not giving them back. I'm very impressed with what Max Homa is doing this week.
I lied. I've got to ask you about one more player before we get to the leaders, because this is the portion of our weekly conversation where Paul teaches Spence about golf. Austin Cook, late addition. So how did this work? He replaced a player who withdrew. Is that just a list of alternates, and it's like, okay, you're up next? And how much credit does he deserve for getting the call and then actually showing up and playing very good golf?
Yeah, a lot of credit, but it is a part of the system, absolutely. So there's a list of alternates every week. I think they keep it if I recall correctly, and they are rank ordered, and there's number 1, who is the first person who gets a call when there's a withdrawal. Number 2 is the next, etc. And he was on that list. He's a former tour winner, but it's been 6, 7, maybe 8 years since he's won on tour. It's been a minute. And he hasn't been making a lot of noise lately, but very clearly he's a guy with a pedigree who can make noise. And so he was on the alternate list. I forget who dropped out, but somebody withdrew, and he got the call. He showed up, and he's been taking full advantage of it. My hat's off to him.
All right, let's move over to the leaderboard. At the top, we find ourselves Michael Brennan, 6 under today. Pearson Cootie, 0 clue who that dude is, but he went low, 7 under today. Jackson Suber, Matt McCarty, who won the thing a year ago. Justin Lowers, also 8 under. So give me your thoughts, top of the leaderboard, and give me your thoughts on the grouping that I always ask you of golfers who you think have a chance to win the thing come Sunday.
Exactly. Let me start with Cootie. It's a historically significant name. His grandfather, Charles Cootie, won the Masters in the 60s. And so Pearson and his twin, Parker? Anyway, he's got a brother who has tour status, or who had tour status and is now back on the Korn Ferry. But Cootie is one of these guys. They both Cootie in Texas on the national championship team. They came out with high pedigrees, and they both played their way onto the PGA Tour. And they're names that should be winning, and that people, not in small part because of who their grandfather is, a Masters champion. So he's one of that you always keep your eye on just because his name's Cootie, and it's interesting to see what he's doing. This Brennan kid who's in the mix is really interesting. He's very young. He's fresh out of college, and he's streaky, and his streak is trending in the right direction this week, and he's making a lot of noise. He got in on a sponsor's invitation, and he is making the most of it.
Before we find out what's on the show tomorrow, every time you do something for the first time, it's not going to be the best way you do it because you learn lessons. Have you seen anything different from the folks down there at Black Desert as far as the way they prepared, the way they've handled ops, whatever it is, the second time around for the PGA Tour descending upon our state?
Absolutely. First of all, not much on the course. The course was superb and pristine and excellent from the start, and it remains that. it's noticeable in terms of how they run the operations. The flow of traffic, both vehicular and foot traffic, is much better this time. They've changed the T area for number 10 and number 1, that primarily to handle foot traffic, and it is a really significant improvement. People are moving far more easily around number 1 and number 10. That is much better. And then last time they had these very, very cool 3-story viewing areas, but they learned that the second and third story, you could only see something on the course if you were right on the edge of the viewing area. So if you're a step or two back, you couldn't see the course. So they've taken out the 2-story and 3-story viewing platforms, and everything's 1-story now, so line of sight is much better. Much better experience for the fans.
Would imagine it's going to be a lively show tomorrow, Paul. What can we expect?
A lot of black desert. We're going to be talking with the superintendent about getting the course ready to have the big show in town. We're going to be talking with Dave Shedlowski, who is here from Golf Digest. He's one of the legendary Golf Digest writers, and it's his first trip to Utah. We're going to be talking with him about what he's seen. And then we're going to come back home for a quick minute. The Ridge, a City of West Valley golf course, public course in West Valley City, is under threat. It is being considered for sale for commercial development, and we're talking with the guy who has organized the citizens group to keep the Ridge, to save the Ridge. Pretty important conversation.
All right, Paul, thanks for the time. I'm mad at you because you're there and I'm here, but I sincerely hope you enjoy the experience, okay?
Well, I want you to know I miss you. I wish you were here, too.
For sure. Paul Pugmire, Bank of Utah Championship, Black Desert Resort in Irvins, Utah, right now led by Michael Brennan at 10 under par, Pearson Cootie 9 under, as is Jackson Suber. Max McCarty, former champ, he won it last year, 8 under par, so was Justin Lower, which is an excellent golf name. That's your Uinta Golf PGA update, the latest on Ping, Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, and more at Uinta Golf and uintagolf.com. What if you're thinking to yourself, man, I'd love to buy some new golf clubs. I just can't afford it. Or I'd like to take a trip to Black Desert Resort. It's not in the budget. Well, how about you start a side hustle? That's right, 7 figures funding. Our guest is Leo today on a Friday afternoon. Happy Friday, Leo. How are you, sir?
Spencer, doing really well. Excited to be with you.
Love that you're here. Appreciate taking the time. Would really love for you to help some of my listeners make a little extra cash. Tell us from a macro standpoint, what exactly is 7 figures funding?
Yeah, great question. 7 figures funding is a marketplace of options, and our focus is how can we help people live that American dream, start that side hustle, launch that business. And the way that happens is by having access to the money to do it. And if you go down to the bank, it's very difficult to get financing for a new business. And that's where we built out funding programs with rates as low as 0% interest, where you can actually go after that American dream, not pay any interest for the first year, and launch a side hustle, a business of your own, and make that dream into reality.
Tell us about this process, Leo. So let's say a listener gives you a call. They go to the website. How do they go through the process? What can they expect?
Yeah, great question. Very simple, easy, automated process. Go to 7figures.com. That is the digit 7 and then figures, FIGURES.com. And you're going to be able to get a free pre-approval for any type of funding option that you qualify for. You'll get a text or an email to schedule a call with an advisor at a time that works for you, and then go over all the details, and then you're in the driver's seat to select the option that works the best for you. Now, Spence, I got a quick question for you. Did you learn a lot about credit in high school and college?
Not as much as I should have, I'll tell you that much.
You know, it's crazy. They still don't teach a lot about that. So we've decided for everybody that applies today, we're actually going to give them a free access to our credit college platform that will help them maintain a high credit score for the rest of their life. We want you to share it with friends, family members. So everybody that applies today is going to get access to that.
Leo, I just want to be clear about something. Sorry to do this on air. The talking points I have, it's 7figuresfunding.com. To be clear, it's only 7figures.com?
Oh, you know what? We own both of them. So
okay.
7figuresfunding.com and 7figures.com. Either one will work, and they all go to the same place.
Guys, if you've ever wanted to start a side hustle or a business and you just haven't had the funds to do it, good news, 7 Figures Funding can help you out. Go to 7figuresfunding.com or 7figures.com, and it's the number 7 to be clear. Here's the phone number, 833-801-5633. That's 833-801-5633. 833-801-5633. And if you sign up today, you get free access to their college credit course to help you understand how that works. Leo, thanks for the time, man. Be good, okay?
Hey, my pleasure.
All right, Leo from Seven Figures Funny. Give him a call if you want to start a side hustle or a business. Met him last week. Really nice dude. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Buckle up, kids. Trevor Riley is live in studio for an hour coming up next right here on ESPN 700. All right, buckle up because he's here. That's right. He's wearing sunglasses inside. And as the great Larry David once said, there are two types of people who wear sunglasses inside, blind people and a-holes. Trevor is neither.
I'm probably the latter, man.
I don't think you are at all. Your significant other is in studio. I wonder if I should ask her opinion on that as she laughs at both of us.
It's hour to hour, but, that's why I don't coach anymore, at least not for now. Coaching makes me into that type of.
Oh, really?
It brings out the worst in me in some ways. That can be good for some kids, right?
Sure,
I don't like ever getting personal with kids or anyone for that matter.
Yeah.
But, yeah, sunglasses inside. It calms me down a little bit, right? It just brings it down just a touch for me.
I don't know that I want calm Trevor today, though. Of all days, for our YouTube viewers, Trevor Riley live in studio. You can also see his lovely bride with us. All right, before we look forward, we will look back. And you played in the Holy War. You played in the rivalry game. You know what it's like. So give me your thoughts just on the game overall. Then we'll get into some specific things.
There was one possession where I wish we would have kicked. I think that him missing the kick on the whistle probably was like, this guy's already on a one miss yank type of situation or a two miss yank. There had been some struggles there, so I think he was probably on a pitch count, as we say in the specialist room. So that one, there was one, but the rest of them, that's how the game's played now. That's math. Everyone talks about 3-pointers in the NBA. I don't like the product necessarily when I'm watching the first two quarters, Spence, and I'm seeing 23s from a team in the first. Mm-hmm. That's not fun, but it's math. Yeah. If you don't shoot them, you're not going to win.
Yep.
And if you don't go for them on fourth downs, and a lot of these times it comes back to bite you. And then I also thought that this muff punt. That was the play. That was the play.
Brutal.
We stop them before half, right? I think they punted. We muff. They kick a field goal, I think. Did they get a field goal or a touchdown?
They got a field goal.
Okay, and then we didn't come out and score it coming out of half. So, and if we go backwards, I think we get the ball, we go down, we kick a field goal, and then we go into halftime with the three. And that's a 6-point swing, and then we're getting the ball. And the odds are, if you score 10 points between the last possession and half and the first one, your odds of winning are like 80-something%. So that was the play for me. I think the rest of it was apropos for the coaching staffs. Every single coach at BYU was trained at Utah, for the most part, and so it was a brotherly battle. And those two plays, man, those were the two plays, I think.
So I understand the point about analytics, and Witt has doubled down. He doubled down on Monday during media, and then he did the coach's show with Bill this week on this station, and he doubled down. He said, "Look, that's what the numbers tell me. That's what the numbers tell me." But let me offer this just to get your opinion. If the analytics say that against Arizona on Saturday afternoon in Salt Lake, then yes, okay. But do you really lean into it in Provo against BYU in a game like that? Like, is there anything there to tap into your experience as a coach of 30 years to say, okay, I get what the math says, but it feels like right now we could really use 3?
That's what Belichick used to say. Times haven't been so bright for him recently, but when we were rolling in New England, he was inconsistent with those sometimes. And we kicked a lot, because we could get points. And right now the offense is averaging, almost 500 yards per game. Mm-hmm. And against I call them non-FCS caliber teams, we're averaging around 20-something points a game. So there's two sides there, right, Spence? To your point, points are at a premium in rivalry games. Everybody knows that. And then on the other side, when you get into those situations, right, the analytics don't always tell the whole story. So I think early on in the game, right, you probably want to bank on analytics more than at the end of games. Mm-hmm. At least I would. What do you think about that? I mean, that maybe you can do both. But I see what you're saying about Coach Witt. How many fourth downs do we have? 5? Is that right?
1 for 5 against BYU.
And the one we almost kicked, we would have missed.
Yeah. You think so?
Well, he missed it.
Well, and apparently
he missed the kick on the whistle.
Apparently he missed it like it was a shank. Yeah, apparently it wasn't even close.
And if we're just following the guys the last 6 weeks, and I don't like, to me special teams is a game of averages, okay? Mm-hmm. But he hasn't had a great season, mm-hmm. So I'm sure he was on a pitch. And I'm with you on that though. I go back to Belichick. He says he used to say that the analytics, I wasn't feeling it at the moment. That's mm-hmm. not what the game was telling me was going to be.
Let me ask you this, because you would know. I've had, I think, 3 guests this week say the following. That felt like Witt was coaching as if it was his last game against BYU. Would you agree with that?
It's a self-serving comment, and all the OCD people who like putting bows on things, that's what it would be to me. Mm-hmm. I still think the guy has more in the tank.
Yeah.
I'm under the opinion, though, that he should take another job if he has the opportunity to do that. Not because we don't want him here, for his sake.
Right.
I would love to see Kyle or Coach Witt running his own game still.
Florida job's open right now.
And I tell you what, man, he's flirted with the SEC before. I remember in 2011, Tennessee,
yeah.
Okay, we all remember that one. I think they hired Lane Kiffin. Coach Witt's got a lot left in the tank, and we can win out and win 10 games, dude.
Yeah.
And we can get into the Big 12 championship game. And if we don't, we get into a great bowl game, and we now have an 11-win season possibly. That's still on the docket. I think we should be a little patient. Sometimes Sometimes it looks worse, but remember, our quarterback's not playing great, and he's banged up. I talked about that all season and before the season. What am I afraid of with small quarterbacks, Spence? Health.
Yeah, and they run a lot too.
It's health. And right now, I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked. I'm not so sure it's not better if the backup plays if this kid's banged up. There's reports of a gator roll tackle that messed up his ankle or something. Have you heard of these things?
I've seen some things online, but I don't live online.
Well,
so,
I just know that the kid is good, but he's not playing that great. Him and the receivers together, let me rephrase that. It's not a good operation, is it?
Yeah.
Down the field, it ain't very good, man.
They don't have playmakers on the outside. They just don't. And I think Ryan's a pretty solid little receiver, but if that's, he's not a big play kid. He's more of a possession slot guy.
He's your third best guy on a great team, I think.
I agree. Dylan Curtis, the kicker, is 1 for 4 on the season from 40 to 49 yards. That would have been like a 44-yard kick.
So the numbers are playing on both sides. To your point, though, I'm gonna stick with this though. Points are premium in rivalry games. Super Bowls, rivalry games, where everyone's just it's full bore. Yeah, that's tight. It's tough.
I got to ask you about one play that is just continuing to honestly keep me up at night, and it was so puzzling to me. And after the game, I went back and watched it, and I watched it Monday just to see if there was anything I could see that I missed prior to. Teo Johnson has Bear Bachmeier dead to rights in the backfield. You're a guy that made a living getting the quarterback. It would have been a 5 or 6 yard loss. All Teo had to do is not let go. He didn't have to finish the play because reinforcements were on the way. When you watch the replay, he literally lets Bear go, and then his momentum with his shoulder pushes Bear forward. And then to compound the issue, Lander comes in from the outside, and that was the play Lander was ejected for.
It looked like he was throwing the game.
It did.
I'm not going to lie to you, Doug. I had one of these games at Utah. I'm not going to say which one. There was a big game we had where someone who usually did, and he did, all of us were like, yo, what's that about? And that kid did not, that's the worst football game he's maybe played in his entire life. He was terrible, and he's a nice kid. He was supposed to be an NFL guy.
Yeah.
He played terrible, Spence, and it looked like, and I'm saying this is hyperbole, everybody. It looked like he was almost throwing the game. It was that bad.
I wish I could disagree, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying he was, but when Eric Weddle came on Sean's show and said maybe he heard a whistle. Do you think there's anything there? Because for the life of me, so you reference Mata's muff punt in the first half. That changed the game. Ugh. This, to me, is the one moment, and then, again, you can debate about fourth down, kick the field goal, take the points, but from a player's perspective, this was the moment that everything changed because Lander's their best tackler. It wasn't just we need the sack. It's like, no, we need our best defensive player as well. This play changed the game, Trevor.
I agree. And it happens sometimes, man, where you just like I hope he just froze or maybe heard a whistle. I just hope he didn't throw the game. I'm not putting that. But it's appropriate for this week's conversation, though, based on the NBA and some other stuff.
Yes.
It's very appropriate, and fans are thinking it. If I'm saying it, probably fans are talking about it. And I'm sure that's not because of anything more than just what you see. What you saw as a guy who it looked like if you're in a play, okay, if you're into a live play, and somebody messes up, like, what is that?
It feels weird. Yeah.
It feels weird. Like, that's an aberration. That's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I want to. So again, I've been trying to be fair to everybody all week because it's Witt's decision to go for it on fourth down, but then it's Jason's call as far as which play they run, and the end around to the Bray kid who was really, really good. I mean, without Daniel Bray, I don't think Utah's even in the game.
Oh, no way.
He had 121 yards rushing. So it was an end around where they were relying on Larry Simmons to make a block. And he didn't even get a fingernail on the defensive back. I think it was the Bomba kid from BYU who made a really good play. So at 4th and 3, I think it was, why aren't you running behind your first-round tackles? I just don't fully get that.
Or maybe if you are going to run a reverse, like we run the old flag football play. Best 2-point play in flag football, reverse pass, dude. Really special. 4th down plays, short yardage goal line plays, and 2-point conversions. They're all in the same. You watch this, Andy Reid's the master. Okay, he's been teaching us for, 20 years on how to run those. But Coach Belichick used to call those are got-to-have-it plays. And to your point, when you're putting that kind of pressure on a guy who's a receiver to make the block, you got to have it right there, right? That's where you want to the guys you're paying, and now this is pro football, right? So when you watch the NFL, right, what you're mentioning to me, Spence, is you're thinking like a pro. So we're paying these guys $2-3 million total, and we got to have it. We got to have it. Those are the guys. If we lose with the guy with the money on the table, well, at least we put our money where our mouth was.
Yeah, the money does change the conversation. The money changes the pressure on the players, and that's just the reality. I don't love when people get upset at the players if they're gambling on the game and they're sending them message on, like, don't be that guy.
No.
But if you're being paid 7 figures, some of these players are making more than their positional coaches.
Absolutely, dude.
So if that's the deal, you better step up.
And coordinators.
If you're getting a paycheck like that, you got to step up.
There's a chance I got to look, but our quarterback's probably making about the same or more than his coordinator. And that's what the NFL is. That's not like a big, whoa, my goodness. But what happens is that as you morph into a pro football team, which is what we are now, we have got to start. We've already seen this in pro football. If you just can take some lessons, right? It's not exactly the way pro football is in the NFL, but I'm telling you, it's a matchup league now. College football is no longer about scheme. How's that working out for Dabo down there? Okay?
Yeah.
You need players, gosh dang it.
Yeah, you
and
do.
we need money to buy players, and that's what we really need.
And we're going to get there in a moment because it's a very important topic, but I want to stick with this game for just a couple of more questions. The targeting call on Lander.
Oh.
When you see the replay, Bear did duck his head, and Lander tried to get his head out of the way. Now, there was helmet-to-helmet contact. That's undeniable. The replay's out there. I've had a couple guests on the show say, yes, that was targeting. They work for BYU TV. I've had a couple of guests on the show say, no, that was questionable. Do you think it was targeting? Should he have been thrown out? Because he's going to miss the first half tomorrow.
Well, the conspiracy would say, well, home cook and BYU stays undefeated. It's a good story for every. I mean, there's all that, but at the end of the day, you can't hit people in the head anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I remember a play, Marquise Blair on this running back from Washington. Okay, we were at home in 2018, and they ran inside zone, and this running back came through the B gap, and Blair was down as a down safety. He speared him in the skull. They knocked him back. They threw him out of the game. We lost the game. Very similar type of situation where it's just bang, bang, right, and a running back lowers his head through a hole. But they've been showing us that now. That's my reference point. That was 7 years ago. So it's one of those things where as they train these guys, you don't hit anymore going high, dude. Bend your knees and get low. We call it the strike zone, below the chin, above the knees. And it's going to take a few more years, but those are the bang, bang plays in football where you almost wish you had – like a third-party arbitrator, like, well, hold on here. You've got a rivalry game here. Let's just wait a minute here. This is too close to. I don't know.
Playing for Witt. What's that week like for him? We had him on the show, and as I was introing him with the interview, I said, "Man, this is such a fun week." And he interrupted me. He said, "Did you say fun?" And I said, "What's the Kyle Whittingham adjective?" And he said, "Intense." But how does he prepare his players to play against BYU?
I would say there's a standard set. We lost to them. I wasn't on the field, so I was on the team, but we lost to them. It was redshirt in 09. It was a tough loss over time.
Yeah.
And so he came into the morning meeting, Monday morning meeting, and said, okay, here's what's going to happen. We will not lose to them ever again. Now, obviously we didn't, or we did lose to them again, but it took 10 years.
Yeah, it was a nine-game winning streak, yeah.
He got on a personal mission. I will not lose to Bronco Mendenhall or the BYU Cougars. And that's the kind of energy he brings during the week. And I thought the game played out we had our chances now. We had 7 turnovers. 6. We had 4 fourth down conversions, correct, and 2 picks.
Yeah.
That's 6.
A pick and a fumble, but yes.
And we're right there. We're right there with 6 turnovers. And so I think we were prepared. Well, sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. And they say, well, why doesn't it bounce your way? We were talking about it now, but I to your point about the intensity, there's no standard for losing. We don't lose to BYU. And that means going downhill. It means that every play has to be perfect, and the practice has to be up tempo. I know they got Colorado this week, and it's a rivalry game, but it ain't the same, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel the same, Spence.
Yeah. And we'll get to Colorado during our second segment, but let me ask you about Morgan during Utah BYU week. Is it a similar vibe to Witt? Is there a heightened level of intensity?
Yeah, it's weird because Coach Witt, deep down I always knew he played at BYU.
Right.
So I was like, Coach, come on, you're having the same conversation down there when you were a player, all right? What it is like, well, whatever side you pick, that's where you're at.
Right.
Be where your feet are. And Morgan, first of all, the guy played against BYU, and he was undefeated in 04, 05. The guy has a tremendous track record as a football player against BYU.
Yep.
But he, if I'm not mistaken, he does have a winning record as a coach against BYU.
Morgan does?
I believe he does.
9-game winning streak. I think it's impossible for him not to. I'll have to do the numbers.
He's intense, though. I think, Coach Witt handles that intensity, but him and Sharif and Lewis Powell and the guys that have been in the rivalry, even Fred played at BYU. You don't want to lose to your brother.
So I've got to get your thoughts on this because last year BYU rolls up to Salt Lake and they get that dramatic win last second where we all thought the game was over. Retzlaff grounds the ball in the end zone and Kalani gets the timeout in. And then there's the holding call that we've all debated, and if you're blue, you think it's obvious. If you're red, you think it's horrendous. But it gave them an opportunity to make a couple plays, which they did. They kicked the game-winning field goal. Second straight win a year ago for BYU. So on Monday of last year, I said, man, it kind of feels like the tide might be turning. Well, this is 3 straight, and Utah hasn't beaten BYU since 2019. So I said on Monday, the tide has turned. The preeminent football program in our state plays 40 miles that way, and I'm pointing south. Is that fair to say at this point?
Would they say you are what your record is? Who said that? Was that
Bill Parcells?
Bill Parcells, man. You are what your record is. Gosh dang it! And right now BYU, they got some clout. They won 11 games last year.
They were 10-2, but they are 18-2 in their last 20.
So they've won 18 out of 20. That's
good.
Money talks. Dude.
Really good, yeah.
And they are winning tough. They're not winning by just out scheming. They're running over people with their quarterback and their running back. That's how they're winning.
So an interesting metric is when you dig into ESPN's advanced college football rankings, not the AP poll or the coaches poll, S&P Plus and Football Power Index, Utah is 14, BYU is 20 in the S&P. Utah is 15 and BYU is 19 in the advanced metrics. Are you surprised that the advanced analytics actually still say Utah is the better football team?
Yeah, I am surprised.
Yeah, me too.
Only because they just played.
Right.
And so we have it on paper. It's almost like someone didn't look at the report. They just whatever, it's analytics. So that's why we talk about analytics. Don't always tell the story, right?
Right.
You're just looking at it from a box score perspective. Utah's a better team. Well, we're not right now. We're having a hard time winning at the end of games. Texas Tech in the fourth quarter. And we just have a hard time closing the fourth quarter out. And right now BYU's doing it. I was at the Colorado game, BYU. They put them to sleep.
Yeah, they did.
And they just did it to us last week. I thought Utah was going to win by 2 scores by suffocating these guys at the end. And really, outside of the prevent touchdown, we got the onside kick. They're always alive. But the game was over with 6 minutes left. They choked us out. You get what I'm saying. Effectively. It was about a 90-something% chance. And to me, that could be coaching, right? But that also, they might have some special kids. This quarterback, he might be somebody special, man. Yeah. He's 18,
he's
dude.
Impressive.
He is killing people.
Yeah,
man.
he's very impressive.
On the road, at home, rivalry, doesn't matter. He shows up and he plays like Hurts. He's just efficient. He's tough. He runs in a straight line. He's awesome.
Yeah, and to your point, the history books will say 24-21, but and maybe get the onside kick. We've seen crazy things happen, but for all intents and purposes, when Bear drug half of Utah's defense into the end zone, it felt like that was it.
It was just you're down 2 scores with less than 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Less than 5 seconds. BYU has done a great job with their recruiting restrictions, which you and I know. Everybody knows if you're listening to this show, they have honor code restrictions, academic. If you have a pulse, you can get into Utah to play football.
Yep.
Now, BYU has the same rules. They can accept whoever they'd like, but they have a pretty tough requirements to get into that school, relatively speaking. And the fact that they have the honor code.
Mm-hmm.
That they're winning in spite of that. I'll give them credit now. They're winning in spite of those 2 major things. It's impressive.
Salt Lake Tribune over the weekend before the rivalry game reported that Brigham Young offered Caleb Lomu $1.5 million to transfer from Utah to BYU and said the offer's on the table for 24 hours. So the rule is coaches can't reach out, and the report did not say the coaches reached out. Admins can't reach out. but boosters connected to the program can reach out because they've always been able to reach out. And even if there are rules, Trevor, they're going to circumvent them. Everyone does it. But what are your thoughts on that?
Caleb Lomu played for my brother at Highland High School in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I emailed Jim Harding and Sam Morset about him back when I was working at Jackson State. My brother said, "Hey, what do you think of this kid? He was about 250." And I said, "Well, we'd love to have him at Jackson State, but he's not going to make it." I said, "Let me talk to Utah." So they put it together. They recruited the heck out of him. They bring him in. And that guy has gotten better every single year.
Yeah.
So when you say they offered him $1.5 million, he probably could have got 1.7 out of him. Mm-hmm. That's how good he is, in my opinion. I think he's fantastic. Yeah. And I think he plays with a better acumen than the right tackle. I see a lot of plays by Fano that I don't holding down the field. Do you remember Bulls? Used to have a few of these plays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this kid, Lomu, tremendous player. I mean, he's probably going to be a first-round pick, but he's awesome. Mm-hmm. So not surprising. We've talked about it before. If you want to get some friends together, Spence, you and I can buy a football team. Mm-hmm. They'll all take your money. Mm-hmm. Shoot, they're about ready to take Saudi money. They'll take your money around here. Yeah. And so we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's really the only thing I have to talk about when it comes to this season.
Yeah.
How much money are we spending? Because if we're not there, dude, then we're just gambling. And now we're the Oakland A's, or actually the Sacramento Valley A's. Mm-hmm. We ain't got no money.
Is your understanding, before we catch a break, and Trevor Riley's in studio, he was an assistant with Deion Sanders at Colorado, so we'll dig into Saturday night coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned. What is your understanding about BYU's economic model currently compared to Utah's, and did that discrepancy show itself at all in the field?
Hey, man, all I know is that in one weekend, what I heard is they put $4 million into the market as far as offers.
Okay.
They had $4 million on the table. Yeah. Imagine a craps table. Mm-hmm. They had $4 million on the table at one point. Mm-hmm. Meaning they had put that out there. Hey, who wants a piece of this? And that may have been
Keanu.
That may have been what the loan. I was getting phone calls like, can you believe this? ABC, the Mormons are paying more than anybody right now.
Like, no kidding. Yeah.
And they see, it's not a bad thing, all right, because now we're in capitalism here, Spence. Mm-hmm. This is pure capitalism. Yep. If you want to do in 10 years they do a study on what happened here in these last 5 years, it's just a case in what this is pure capitalism. People will find a way to win. And we have got, and I say Utah, we have got to start matching that energy as an alumnus group, as alumni people, as homecoming. We got to find a way to get organized because we're getting left behind, dude. And what did Einstein say? Compound interest is an unbelievable thing. Mm-hmm. If you get behind 1 or 2 years,
13th wonder of the world or something like that.
That's it. It's just simple math. If you get behind 1 or 2 years, guess what happens? You're now going to get it goes and goes. Now it's harder to get back.
Yeah, and BYU struck while the iron's hot because at some point regulations will be in place that weren't in place when BYU was able to buy A.J. DeBonsa for their basketball team, poach Keanu Tanavasa from Utah. And it was not against the rules. So There's nothing wrong with what they did. They actually played the game in a way that you got to play it now.
I'm not mad at the administration. I'm not mad at the coaches. I'm not mad at the players. We need to help these people.
Yep.
Right? We have to. If you're a Ute, we got to figure out a way to get some cheese around here, dude, if we want to keep having these good seasons and sold out stadiums.
I'm with you. All right. Speaking of cheese, save some on windows. With Advanced Window Products, our buddy Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City, has a great offer for you right now where you get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. So definitely check out the deal. The nice thing about this deal is if you don't need new windows now, but you anticipate maybe needing new windows when the weather gets colder, if you call and get on the schedule, you still save the money. So here's the deal. Call Advanced Window Products today at 801-850-9100. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or visit advancedwindows.com. More with Trevor Riley, live in studio, coming up on ESPN 700. Trevor Riley is live in studio for another segment before we get to the 5 o'clock hour of the show. Happy Friday. Thanks for making this program a part of your day today and every day. It's a beautiful day outside, and it's good to have you along for the ride. All right, if you missed our segment, last segment, not to be redundant, we discussed BYU, Utah, and how that all went down. And Trevor's a great guest to have today because Trevor played for Utah, coached on the coaching staff, and also was an assistant for a guy named Deion Sanders, who rolls into town tomorrow with his Colorado Buffaloes, coming off a bye. Colorado feels like they're trending up a little bit, Trev, but Utah is a healthy 13.5-point favorite. Let me ask you this. Last segment, we talked about game week prep as somebody who played and coached, around Kyle Whittingham. As somebody who coached with Deion Sanders, what's game week prep like for when you're coaching with Prime?
Well, for this week, he knows that Utah's tough. He knows they run the ball. He's going to probably look back, him and the coordinators, and look at that game plan from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's throw the ball up, which is what I would do if I was them. I would toss that ball up and have that quarterback run around back there.
Are you talking about Colorado to throw it up there? Caden Salters?
You talk about preparation. That's his first issue. Is he going to? What are we doing on offense? How are we scoring points? And based off of what I've seen with this quarterback, he's a transfer from Liberty, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-huh.
And he's playing ahead of a top 5 recruit in the country, Julian Lewis, who's a backup quarterback. And I say that because we may see him. I think our D-line's going to eat the O-line up. I think they're going to eat him up this week. But where they are going to have a real advantage over us, they understand matchups. Okay, at least their coordinators they're calling the game as such. They're playing matchup defense. Okay, the old cover 3 match or man defense. So they're going to see single high now. Go and check it out first and second down. And then on offense, they like to throw the ball up, which is what evident last week when we covered them the whole game and they still scored 40 on us because we couldn't stop the scramble drill. So Deion, he's going to treat it like an NFL game. He's all right. This is a tough team, right? But we can out-athlete them. We got better receivers. Our quarterback can move around a little bit. And their defense is playing tough. So I think their game plan is going to be try to run the ball early on. If that doesn't work, they're going to go back to what they did last year, which is run around back there and throw that ball up and let their athletes go eat.
If it is Bird Ficklin and not Devin Dampier, and we don't know because the availability report was released, and it is an unserious exercise for Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, there's 3 guys on there, I think.
Well, he even listed Lander as out for the first half because he got ejected, which is genuinely hilarious.
It's petty. I love it.
But that's great comedic relief.
Yeah.
But I think there are enough people out there with the information. I'm not reporting it, so if it's not him, everyone relax. If I had to guess, I think it's Bird Ficklin.
I wouldn't be mad at it. The young fella, the young fella is shown to be great at garbage time. That ball comes out of his hand. He rips that C. It looks pretty good coming out of there.
Scott Mitchell on my show said he thinks Bird throws a better ball than Devin.
It looks good coming out, man.
Yeah.
He's got that C, dude.
Yeah.
He rips that, and it comes out nice. But he's only gone to his left in this garbage time. Go watch the tape, okay? And he's a lefty.
Yep. And
he's playing against a team that they like to play night games now. Colorado gets up for those night games, as do the Utes. That's why this is going to be a great game, I think. But I'm not mad at it because Dampier, if he's banged up, and we just talked about Tua off air. Tua admitted he couldn't see over the line.
Yep.
My dog's center is 6'5.5".
Yep.
Kump. Okay, he's taller than the guards.
Yeah.
And if you're banged up a little bit and you're 4, this might be a good week to just see what happens and get healthy. But this is a great opportunity for a young fellow with a great arm to come in and maybe throw that ball down the field a little bit.
So Colorado comes into this game as the second worst run defense in the Big 12. Utah is the third best rushing attack. I think it's second or third. Will they be able to it feels like this might be a situation, and since you played for Witt, I want to get your take on this. My guess is this week has been probably a little intense, like, hey, we lose to BYU. Okay, we're going to get back to business. And so what's the complication when it comes to putting a game like that that's so emotional behind you? And do you think Kyle's just going to try to get back to the old school? Okay, they don't stop the run well. We're going to run it down their throats. Do you anticipate something like that?
Yeah, I hope so. I keep saying I think one is one of the best backs that, I think he looks like when he's rolling, and I say rolling, they need to give him the ball 5 or 6, 7 times. They give him some rhythm.
Yeah.
They sub those backs out so often.
Yeah.
21's had a nice season, but I think and one, and then the third guy was at 18 or 19 last week.
13 is Bray. Last year,
those two guys, Bray and one, man. I want to see those two.
So last week, Wayshawn only had 8 carries, and Nakari only had 1 carry. They really leaned into the Bray kid, 10 carries, 121. Then Devin carried it 15 times.
Yeah.
And you warned us, man, like Devin's not very big. If you're going to run your quarterback, he's probably going to get hurt, and here we are.
He's small.
Yeah.
Okay. Small guys are now going out of fashion, right? Russell Wilson. You guys see that throw he had when he came in for garbage time the other day?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a much better player than I ever was, but he overcame the exceptions are hard. I'm not crapping on Dampier. He still has great football ahead of him. He could still probably be a pro for all I know.
Yeah.
His ball, he throws the ball. But with this team, when you got linemen like that and you're not healthy, the other guy might be a better option this week. Might be.
Is the line as good as everybody thought they were going to be? Because in moments, the answer has been absolutely. I mean, and certainly, like the ASU game, I kept calling them bar bouncers. They were like picking up the defensive linemen and throwing them.
I think that we could see that again.
But in the 2 challenges, okay, against Texas Tech and BYU, like it hasn't looked the way it needed to for a line that was lauded as potentially one of the best in the country.
Well, I like number 1. Okay, I'm riding with him.
Okay.
And the reason why he can make the first guy miss better.
Mm-hmm.
Better contact balance in 21. Straight up, dude. Watch the tape.
Yeah.
So if he's fumbling the ball, if he's not practicing hard, whatever, man. I had a guy named Chris Ivory. He didn't practice all season, ran for about 1,300. Zach Moss didn't practice a whole lot. So I don't know if that's an issue. I just know that one, in my eyes, when I watch, I'm not scared of 21. Not that he ain't good, by the way. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I like 1 and I like 13.
Yeah.
The reason why we saw 13 last week, they ran bare front against us.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't seen bare front. Okay? That's a nose over the center for everyone who's not understanding. The edges are vulnerable. They ran that play, that sweep, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was more of a receiver right there, Spence. He wasn't getting between them tackles, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'd like to see 1 between the tackles and 13 on the edges because you brought up the point. They didn't look too good in those 2 games. And I would say that I blame the tailbacks too now.
Mm-hmm.
They need to make those guys miss here. That's what they're paid to do. Make the first guy miss. Because a lot of times they bring that safety down, Spence. It's one-on-one with the back, and he has got to make that guy miss.
So walk us through that approach that BYU chose to go with the schematic on defense. And Jay Hill, knowing this personnel, what was he trying to take away? And your thoughts on the way Jason elected to go about his business to counter what Jay did?
When you line up in heavy personnel, right, we had big fella 99 out there at one point catching balls.
A couple times, yeah.
But you line up in a heavy set, right? That just means you're going to match it up now. It's matchup ball. It's a one-on-one. If they're quarterback run game, it's 0, cover 0.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned into a little thuggery there. But then at the same time, they were making tackles at the end of the games now. They were tackling when they needed to tackle, 16 specifically. Jack Kelly. They were making solo tackles.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so schematically, he matched their personnel, and I have to go back and watch the full tape. I just know that we're not making the guy miss like we were with Moss, we were with Ty Jordan, like we were with Darrell Mack, Asiata. Those guys they're making the first one miss. Either they're running through them or they're making a miss. We got to do that.
Yeah, the Falatu Satawala kid, bountiful kid, had a big-time game. He was originally a Ute commit that flipped to BYU. I want to ask you something about Tanner Wall, though, what Tanner Wall said after the game. Tanner Wall had a really good game. He had 10 tackles, and he said after the game, well, Utah's passing attack, and I'm paraphrasing, the quote is online somewhere, Utah's passing attack is very easy to prepare for. It's pretty simplistic. What are your is that a fair assessment of this passing? Okay.
We're running tempo.
Yeah.
So something's got to give when you got 20 hours during the week coaching college, right? That's why these offenses exist in college, everybody. You have a time constraint. So with Andy, we had all these checks. It was a pro offense, and when we were working, we were rolling on people.
Yep.
This is a different strategy here now, okay? This is not 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but kind of. They want to do 5 yards in a cloud of dust. This is a rushing attack. But they also simplify the passing game because you only put so much in now. So if you're running tempo and you're running all these running plays, the pass game becomes off of the run game. So it's not that we're running the veer option, but we're running a very, very heavy run-oriented offense, and you're running tempo, which means when you run tempo, Spence, you're not reading the defense as much.
I see.
Receivers are running to space, right? And it's 1-2 with the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We had Troy Taylor in this offense in Tyler 2018. It was 1-2, take off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's the same, but it's very similar. We run the same type of stuff. And so that's our strategy this year. What you have to have with this, you got to have deep down the field guys. When Leach had trouble, right, throwing the ball, those short, because we're running horizontal routes. We're running horizontal across the field routes. And you need to have those guys. 18 has dropped the ball for us down the field this year.
Yep, he has. There's no doubt. And he's actually questionable. Tobias Merriweather is questionable. The lack of playmaking outside is something we've talked a lot about all week. And, I think Tobias looks the part. Larry Simmons looks the part. But I feel like that is something that this staff needs to wear a little bit. Obviously the Zach Williams kid transfers to USC before the season. I don't even think he really sees the field much, so I'm not sure what sort of difference that would make. Is that a matter of wide receivers looking at Utah historically and not seeing, like, if I'm going to go get – well, the weird thing is, like, Tim Patrick and Devon Vele, despite not being maximized, have made their way in the NFL. Like NFL scouts, as you know, if you're good enough, they're going to find you.
I mean, yeah, I would just recruit San Diego for receivers. Okay, that's how we roll, dude. Those guys are both walk-ons.
Yeah.
Okay, Devon Vele was brought up here by Frank Tia. He said, hey, this is my nephew. He just got off his mission. He wants to walk on. He's 6'5".
Yeah. Now, I remember the first time I saw Vele, I was like, dude, that guy's good.
Tim Patrick, Aaron Roderick pushed him forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was supposed to be with my senior year. We pushed him to January. So we've gotten, and some of these guys have really just, we got them because they showed up. And you mentioned it earlier. Why would you come here as a receiver? If you had a son who was a wide receiver, why would you want to go to Utah?
Yeah.
And that's not me. I would send my kid here. But, again, I'm from San Diego. That seems to work out with Coach Witt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Us San Diego boys, we've been running this team since 2000, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happens to be that we don't throw the ball here very much. We haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since Drez Anderson, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the last one.
2012. Maybe 13. Might have been my senior year.
It's over a decade.
We're winning, though. I'm not that mad at Coach Witt. Shoot, we went to 2 Rose Bowls.
All right.
Gosh dang, we were a commuter school about 30 years ago.
I'm just talking about, the lack of playmaking on the outside, I think, has really killed this team this year.
It has, and it has over the years when we've always been right there. But, there's no but there. You spend so much time building the rest of the team, right?
Yeah.
All you need is 2 of those guys. And I say all you need. Now, they ain't easy to come by now.
Mm-hmm.
But you need 2 of them.
Yeah.
You need 2 guys that can run and catch the ball and go up. If you go one-on-one with me, you're going to pay. I need 2 of those guys.
I'm with you. Let me ask you about the way A-Rod called the game last week. And we should certainly give L.J. Martin his flowers. That kid is a special running back.
Yeah, he is.
He's one of the best in the Big 12. Bear only threw it 22 times. The back shoulder touchdown pass to Chase was elite. That was an NFL throw.
Yep.
But they also relied heavily on the run game. The wild part, Utah outgained them. They had more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per rush. So BYU, once again, opportunistic, taking advantage of turnovers, whether it was the pick, the fumble, or the lack of fourth down conversion. But as far as how A-Rod called the game against Morgan and Utah's defense, what stood out to you most?
I think he was patient. Okay, that was what he taught his quarterback during the week was, just wait, man, wait. By the fourth quarter, we'll have their hand. They can only run so many plays.
Yeah.
Just wait. Don't take chances down unless you got them. And to your point, they got a guy who can go get a one-on-one matchup. Okay, that kid is elite from American Fork High School. I remember we recruited him in 2018 or 19. I couldn't remember. He went on a mission. We wanted that kid. Gosh dang it, he can go get it. He's a jump ball go getter. They got 2 other ones. They got 11, who's real fast.
Parker Kingston, yeah.
Then they got the black kid. What number is he?
Preston Rex 12, I believe. I think that's who it is.
They can go down the field and get those. And I say black kid guy, everybody, because white receivers at BYU,
you don't have to qualify.
Okay,
it's okay.
But the point is they got some guys that can go down the field. Our best guy down the field right now is 81 and 88.
Yeah.
Those are tight ends.
Yep. Yeah.
And credit to that room. Okay, we're tight end U behind Iowa. We're right there with them. But we got to get 2 guys. We need 2 of them. I mean, BYU doesn't have more than 2 or 3. They got 2 or 3. They're undefeated.
Yep. Carson Ryan, former Ute and UCLA tight end, is now at Brigham Young. And, of course, Keanu Tanavasa down there as well. It's just another dynamic that makes this thing so interesting, how many people coached or played at BYU that is now at Utah and vice versa. It makes it the most unique rivalry in all of college football, does it not?
It does. And just, let's talk about Jay Hill and Gary Anderson. Those guys can coach. They know how to recruit speed now.
Yep.
A-Rod knows how to coach receivers. Okay. And you got Fessy. They got some good coaches down there now.
Of course,
what they do well with, though, is that they're getting speed down there. And that is a huge recipe for success with BYU. When you have speed or you have tremendous skill at those skill positions, like remember Luke Staley just carrying those teams?
He was so good.
Oh, my goodness.
He was a cheat code, man. He was.
You remember Ronnie Jenkins?
Sure. Yeah.
Some of these, I mean, you're talking about a couple guys carrying BYU's offense
Yep.
for years. And so at Utah, we have got to find a couple of those guys. We've got to. We've got to get 2 or 3 guys a year that can run down the field. And if you run man-to-man against us, we're going to make you pay.
Yep. Let me get your thoughts on this. We got a couple of minutes left before I set you loose because we'll kind of bring it back around to where we started when on Monday of the rivalry game after the BYU, after the second win last year, the Monday after the game, I said the tide feels like it might be turning. Monday of this week, I said it feels like the tide has officially turned. And we have a scoreboard in sports. That's all we have. That's all we can go off of. I don't think there's a big gap between Utah and BYU this year. I think if they play 10 times on a neutral field, Utah might win 7 of them.
Yeah.
But you never know how it's going to go down. But if we operate off the premise based off of 3 straight wins by BYU, they're undefeated again this year. It's the second time they've been 7-0. They're 18-2 in their last 20, and Utah just can't say the same. If we operate off that premise, the question comes down to, Trevor, how does Utah get this thing back on their side? If it's on BYU's side, how does Utah get it back?
I mean, the obvious answer, which everyone's annoying when I hear me say this, we need more money.
Yep.
We have to overcome a few things here. Number one, we don't throw the ball down the field historically, which is not the bad thing, everybody. Okay, we're still in the top 25 dang near every year. We're competing, but we need to fix that one thing. Okay, so that means we're going to have to pay a little bit, pay a premium for some serious speed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. Okay, the whole equation is pretty solid, though. Okay, now obviously we can't lose guys like we just did to BYU and other schools to SC. That's money related. I don't think that's anything more than money related, and the scheme has to do with the receivers, but we're going to pay a premium for that. And the second thing is we got to finish games, dude. All right, fourth quarter against teams that are at our level, as I call it. Those are our level teams. We're not playing well in the fourth quarter against those teams. We got to fix that. How do we fix that? Get tougher, okay? Get more diligent. Maybe the ball bounces your way. There's some luck involved too, but off the cuff, dude, you got to get a little tougher, dude.
Do you think this team is as tough as, historically speaking, Witt teams has been?
I don't know, man. It's hard to say.
It doesn't feel like it when you're watching the game, like the teams that you were on or the great Pac-12 teams. It felt like those teams out-physical teams every week.
I would say when I was coaching here in 2018 and 19, okay,
that team was tough.
We were tough.
That team was
tough. And our defense especially.
Yeah.
Go look at how many guys are playing in the league. It's starting.
On paper, there's a case to be made that's the best team that Utah's ever had.
I would say, remember the schedule we had. We played Oregon in the Valero Alamo Bowl, I think. And we played or Texas, excuse me. We played Oregon in the big Pac-12 championship, or Washington. We played some teams, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that the money is going to change people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you mentioned earlier, and I mentioned earlier, you got players now making more than coaches. That's not always doesn't go well in every room, every building, right?
Yeah.
That's not a normal milieu for some of these coaches and players to exist in. This is a new thing for everybody here. You don't have the power anymore, homie. I got all of it. I got all the money, and I can leave whenever I want. Watch how you speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not every guy on the team there, but you better, if there's 1 or 2 of those guys around, they can be real problems.
Sure.
Those are what you call cancers. So there might be 1 or 2 of them in that locker room. We don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I attribute the tough. I want to fight those people. And I only won 5 games here as a senior. Gosh dang, I'm ready to fight. I don't like losing, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that mentality, gosh dang it. When I see them, I want to see the fight in the fourth quarter. I want to see some throat cutters out there.
Mm-hmm. A lot made of the way Kalani approaches the rivalry game as opposed to the way Kyle approaches the game. And after the game, the video was, and BYU's social team does a really good job, and it was clear that they were trying to get this out there on purpose. But Kalani talking about how much we love Utah, we love Witt, we love those guys. They brought out the best in us, and this was after a win, so I'm sure that's easy to say. But as I've told people, that's who Kalani is. He just is that guy. You played for him. What do you make of the way he handled that week?
I know the man intimately.
Yeah.
I've left my children at his house. He's a Christian. That's the first rule they taught, right? Love thy enemy, or one of the first rules.
Mm-hmm.
He's all about that, man. Around here, we're gonna get some money, and then we'll turn that tide. He'll be telling these stories about us. Okay.
Last thing, tomorrow night, 8:15, Utah, Colorado. What happens?
Okay, so if the backup plays, I think we have a better chance to win.
Interesting.
So I'm gonna say Utah by 7 if the backup plays. If the starter plays, I'll still take Utah by 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think Colorado's dangerous with a matchup for us right now.
Okay.
Okay, they just beat a top 25er, and they're coming off a bye week.
Mm-hmm.
Right, they're getting healthy. Even though I saw their eligibility report, they had a crap load of players on there, but that might be gamesmanship. What I think happens is the game comes down to the fourth quarter. just like the last two games against tough teams have. And we're going to see. We're going to see if we made some adjustments this week.
All right, buddy. Great to see you. Radio Gold, as always. You're going to be on pregame tomorrow. Is that right?
That's right, 4 o'clock. Okay, we'll be in studio here, and we'll be ripping it up.
My man, Trevor Riley, former Ute. We will catch a break, and we'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program coming up on the other side. But I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Window Products. You can get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. This is a local company operated by Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City, his buddy Jake Weber. They're great people. They're here to help you. But if you don't need new windows now, but you might in a month or so, maybe you're going to buy or sell a home, call, get on the schedule, and you lock in the savings no matter when you actually have the work done. So it's Advanced Window Products at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or online at advancedwindows.com. 1 hour left on a Friday afternoon. Keep it here on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping it up. Final segment of the show for the day and for the week. I say this sincerely. Thank goodness, because the voice needs a little time off. As much as I love this job and love doing this every day and appreciate anyone who tunes in, the voice needs a little break. Porter Larson, give us the down and dirty. Shout out Scott Mitchell for the Utah pregame show coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, man, we'll be here at the studio for Utah, Colorado, 4 hours before kickoff. So we'll set the scene for Bill and Sly and Scott up at the tailgate about 4 o'clock, as you mentioned. 4:15, we'll get going for the pregame show. It's Trev and I think Andy Phillips is going to stop by. Some kicker talk on a game day. So we'll go from there on a Saturday. A big one, I think, in what should be a get-right game for Utah.
That is a perfect guest to have on after all the conversation about kicking. Our guy Andy Phillips.
We just do 2 hours of it.
Can we get Andy on the show? I'd love to have Andy on this radio show.
In studio, let's do it.
Yeah, would love to do that. All right, Porter. When the offense runs out tomorrow, the starting quarterback for Utah football will be who?
I want to say it's Bert Ficklin. I'm gonna preface it with saying that the coyness I give you is because that's the coyness you're getting from the people who are as close to the situation as possible. So we're back to where we were a year ago. But alas, at least Utah has options there that they are at least somewhat comfortable with.
All right, are you ready for my final score prediction for Utah, Colorado?
I am.
You're ready for it. We'll let you save yours for the pregame show. I picked, 27-24 Utah over BYU last week. Obviously got that one wrong. The final score tomorrow night will be Utah 34, Colorado 17.
Okay.
Ready
That's
for
a
it?
get-right game.
That's a get-right game. The cover, that's a little bit over the 49.5. So we'll have to see. The forecast is going to be good. Colorado's run defense is bad. Utah's rushing attack is good. There's your dynamite analysis. Brock Purdy out this weekend for the Niners again. A.J. Brown out for the Eagles if you're looking for fantasy football information. All right, Porter, big weekend, big one tomorrow night. What do we have coming up on a Monday edition of the show?
Our guy Jason Batakiao, of course, as you mentioned, he was kind enough to bump to Monday after Trevor came in studio. Our guy Richard Smitty Smith. It is, of course, NBA and Jazz season in full swing. Josh Furlong, as he usually does on a Monday. We'll have Kyle Whittingham's weekly press conference, Scott Mitchell, and potentially our friend Stormy Biontany of ESPN. She's going to be in town for Colorado and Utah.
Very nice. So that'll be a good Monday show. We'll say goodnight. Special thank you today to Zach Harper, Craig Bolerjack, Paul Pugmire, and the legend himself, Trevor Riley. For any of the sound that you may have missed from the show today, go to the website. It is ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. The ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, check out our podcast page and please support us. Give us a rating and a review. Say nice things. Give us all the stars. It actually helps out. That's Porter. I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Go Utes. Keep it right here on ESPN 700.